can feel hold on. Hold on. He's coming out with Logan Paul. I like Jake a lot more than Logan. Logan is a fucking idiot. Come on, Mike. Someone hit Jake in the head with a cup. That's great. I don't condone throwing things at sporting events, but if you're gonna hit someone, hit Jake Paul. Props to that guy or lady, whoever did that. Oh my God, are we really gonna watch Jake Paul beat up Mike Tyson right now? Please, Mike Tyson. Please, God, just give Mike Tyson that little bit of youth. Deduct 10 years off the 58. He's had a lot of rough living. He partied a lot, but just give him one night where a 58-year-old has some speed and just connects with Jake Paul's body, rib cage, or chin. Please. Nobody wants to see Jake Paul beat up Mike Tyson. Nobody. There is not a single person, unless you bet. There was one bet actually I saw. Someone bet $1 million on this fight on Jake Paul. He might be the only one who really wants to see Jake Paul beat up Mike Tyson. Nobody else. Oh, please, God. Oh, what the fuck? He's nuts. Oh, come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Oh, I really don't want to watch Jake Paul knock out Mike Tyson right now. This shit would be fucking terrible. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Who do you guys got? Let me know if you think Jake Paul or Mike Tyson. Write it in the chat. All right, Tyson looks game. He has a good poker face right now. Woo! Fucking nerves are shot right now. I do not want to see 58-year-old Mike Tyson get flatlined by fucking Jake Paul. It was like I was saying earlier, something that I saw that really resonated with me is they said that watching Jake Paul, if Jake Paul knocks out Mike Tyson, it's like watching Mr. Beast cross over Michael Jordan. That's what this is equivalent to on some scale. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Let me know in the chat who you think's gonna win. Do you think Mike Tyson or Jake Paul? Is anyone else's Netflix freezing? I imagine right now is probably gonna be the height of the Netflix freezes. completely frozen, Netflix. All right, we're back. Let me know in the chat. Do you think Mike Tyson could pull this off at 58 years old? Or do we think Jake Paul fucking ruins our night? Ruins this whole fucking event by fucking flatlining Mike Tyson? I do like how they are treating Mike like an animal and they have everyone in the ring so he can't get near Jake. But he looks like a 58-year-old. He absolutely looks old as shit. Come on, Mike. Let me know in the chat who you got. I'm going with Tyson. I think Tyson's gonna pull it off. I think Tyson's a better fighter, better boxer, and a fucking animal. Again, much props to MVP Promotions. They got very attractive ring car girls for this one. Damn, no. I know Mike looks old, but his face, he looks like he aged 10 years since yesterday. Fuck you, Netflix. I got good internet. I'm hardwired in, so everyone must be having problems. I even went to a stream before when my shit froze and they were frozen. I wonder if Netflix is having crazy demand right now for people trying to stream this shit. Come on, Mike. For the few viewers in the chat, let me know who you think's gonna win. Are you watching? Do you got Tyson? Do you got Jake Paul? Do you think it's rigged? I don't think it's rigged, but a lot of people say that. Like if Jake Paul wins, it's rigged. I just think if Jake Paul wins, Mike Tyson's old. Jake Paul beating up the MMA fighters was just the MMA fighters weren't as good of boxers as him, or they slept on him and he just fucking caught him. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. I don't know if any of you ever seen when Chuck Liddell used to watch fights. He was, I don't do cocaine, but he was high as fuck on cocaine. And he used to be like, and start getting all crazy as he was watching the fights. I do a little bit of that. This shit always is very nerve wracking. The self proclaimed face of boxing. Guy thinks he's fucking Muhammad Ali. Oh, come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Are you guys watching this? 58 years old. Is anyone in this chat 58 years old? How do you guys feel at 58? Do you feel like you could beat up a 28-year-old? Oh, come on, Mike. Oh, fuck. So you guys can stay tuned. More than likely, we're going to get disappointment live. My live does not comply. What did I do? I don't know. I think they just fucked me. I got multiple restrictions. I'll be back. Come on, Mike. Oh my god. Jake's just watching a lot right now. He hasn't thrown a punch yet. Downloading. Just pace yourself, Mike. Oh my god, I thought Jake was just gonna drop him. Tyson definitely looks slow. He's got to use his head movement. And hopefully Jake can't time it. Oh. Oh, we just need Tyson to have some cardio for this one. Come on, Mike. Oh, Jake is winging a right hand. Come on, Mike. I mean, Jake's throwing more volume. Mike's landed the only glancing blow. He didn't land a right hand. It looked like Tyson landed a jab more than anything. There's a left hand Jake just landed. Good head movement by Mike. Good body shot. Referee saying it was low. Good feeling out round for both. It all depends on Mike's cardio. Mike does not look like he's wearing it well right now. Mike hasn't been in the ring in a long time. Probably had a little, is going to have a little adrenaline dump right now. So hopefully it's not too much. Hopefully he's in shape. Yeah, so the biggest punch of that first round was landed by Tyson. A grazing right hand. So Paul did land a little right hand on the temple of Mike. Jake Paul caught him on the temple. So Jake Paul just almost knocked out Mike Tyson. Come on, Mike. Oh, man. Jake Paul's definitely on his bicycle, trying to stay away. He's trying to catch Mike when Mike's stepping in, trying to time his footwork. Jake's definitely looking like he's faster than Mike. Jake just landed another right hand. Mike just landed a little glancing left hook. Come on, Mike. They're definitely really fighting. It's not a, I don't see either guy taking it easy. Jake's definitely pacing himself. Mike's trying to find his range. Good body shot by Mike there. Little glancing left hook, and Jake just grabbed him up. Jake's coming close, which I don't like. Too close for comfort. And Mike looks like he's slowing down a little bit right now. So hopefully he can time Jake. Jake's definitely on his bicycle still, pumping out a jab. Roy Jones keeps saying he doesn't like Tyson's legs, so he doesn't like the way Tyson's catching his footing after he moves. Just on volume, if we're scoring this fight, Jake won that round. I think Mike won the first round. But the event's put on by Jake Paul, so probably 2-0 Jake Paul. Mike's not getting fucked up. He's just not doing anything. Neither is Jake. But the problem with that is Mike's going to get more tired than Jake. So, the way it's looking, unfortunately, it looks like Jake's going to time a right hand and catch him. My Netflix just froze, though. I'd imagine it's happening to a lot of people. Oh, I missed 30 seconds of this round, so I don't know what happened. They're talking like Jake landed a punch. Oh, Jake just landed a left hand right there. Oh, Jake's hitting him now. Motherfucker. Jake Paul is about to knock out Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's 58 years old right now, fighting a 28-year-old. Oh, I was really pulling for Mike. I didn't want to see this happen to him. Come on, Mike. Oh, Jake just caught him with a left hand. It looked like he wobbled him. Body shot. I think Jake thinks he's got him hurt. $30 seconds left. Tyson's got to get out of this round. Jake's kind of pot shotting him right now. Mike definitely had a little adrenaline dump. Oh, not looking good for Mike. Now, within one round, I now feel like an asshole, like I'm watching a fucking kid beat up an old guy. Like, what the fuck am I into? Mike seems like he keeps having trouble pushing his mouthpiece back up, but then every time he goes into the corner, they can't take his fucking mouthpiece out. Mike is definitely thinking right now, I don't want to do this shit. Hopefully he's just tired and he catches a little second win here. Jake's not landing anything big, but right there he landed a couple of left hands that made Tyson acknowledge it. Just missed the right hand. So Jake's throwing hard punches. There's a chance. Very good chance. Very good chance. He's about to knock Mike Tyson out. Jake's corner definitely told him right there. He's old. He's tired. Go out there and knock him out. Jake popping out a jab. Mike has thrown 55 punches and landed 12, according to Punch Stats. Jake Paul has landed 28 out of 100. Jake just landed a left hook right there, just landed a right hand. He's about to fucking knock out Mike Tyson. Come on, Mike. It's funny, like leading into the fight, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get to see Tyson fight, and if Jake Paul hopefully has a chance. Now it's like, you are a piece of shit, Jake Paul. You're fighting a 58-year-old man. You signed up for this shit, and this is like the fucking people at Netflix let this happen. Oh, I was really hoping this wouldn't turn out like this. Tyson's still moving a little bit. 20, 25 seconds left. My concern now is Tyson's going to flatline cardio wise and just not move when Jake launches a clean right hand. Tyson hasn't even thrown that much. One punch at a time, a jab, one or two wild hooks. After the first, he made it to the first round, but didn't look great. But after the first 30 seconds of the second round, he started to look very uncomfortable. And you realize you're watching a 58-year-old fight a 28-year-old, and you're thinking, what the fuck am I into? What am I doing with my night? What am I doing with my life? Why am I supporting this shit? That they fucking let this fight happen. Whoever let this fight happen, you're a piece of shit. And I hope just karma hits you. And when you're old as fuck, you get fucked up. Not even in a sanctioned event, in a street fight by someone 30 years younger than you. Like, if he was fighting another old person, that'd be one thing. Fucking old person versus old person. You probably don't feel as bad watching someone get fucked up. But when it's a kid beating up a fucking grown man, beating up a grandpa, Mike's got to make it through 4 more rounds. It's not what's happening, but just imagine if we lived in a fantasy land and Mike was rope-a-doping him and pulling a Muhammad Ali. He is still moving, Mike. Oh, he just got clipped with a right hand there. Jake Paul just clipped Mike with it. Oh, oh. Oh, yeah. Jake's throwing some heat now. Just landed an uppercut. Mike's still up. Mike's only strategy, only thing right now, nothing else is working. He doesn't have combinations to throw. He's got to catch Jake in an exchange. When Jake punches, he needs to punch and hope he lands something. Because if he doesn't, Jake Paul's about to land that right hand that flatlines Mike Tyson. Oh, they traded left hooks right there. And Mike gave him a little nod, like I'm not dead yet. But hopefully not. But in like a couple minutes, hopefully not. TikTok's gonna be flooded with Mike laying on the canvas. Jake is just waiting him out. Very, very nicely waiting him out. End of the 5th round right now. Not looking good for Mike. He hasn't taken any big shots, but he's taken shots. Just landed another right hand, Jake. Mike's eating them well. Maybe once or twice he reacted where it was like, all right, I got hit with something. But he made it through that round. So no Mike Tyson getting flatlined on TikTok videos yet. For a 58-year-old now at this point, he's doing fucking great. For what we maybe were expecting, holding on to nostalgia and being like, it's Mike Tyson. No, he's 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Landed a complete flush right hand. Mike ate it. That left hook, Mike landed a little left hook. That was probably the best that's going to happen for Mike right there. He's got to do that again. Jake landed a left hook. Mike landed a left hook. Mike nodded at him. Jake started sticking his tongue out like a snake. Oh, come on, TikTok. I don't want to see Mike on TikTok. Lay it out. But after the first 2 minutes of the fight, the expectations all go out the window, and you realize, yes, he is a 58-year-old man. It's probably not going to go well. With that expectation, Mike's doing pretty good for a 58-year-old against a 28-year-old. But sixth round, still got the sixth, seventh, eighth, still got 3 rounds left. And Mike is just slow. The only way he's going to catch him is if he punches when Jake punches. Other than that, Jake's not going to be there. Mike doesn't have an attack to set up. He doesn't have a combination to throw. He's got to punch when Jake punches. So, yeah, he's 58, but at 58 right now, he's doing very well. But Jake is using the old school, the Lennox Lewis strategy against Mike. Just keeping range, jabbing him, not staying there for his attacks. And again, 58 years old. What's crazy too, now I can see why a lot of the states pulled this off and you weren't allowed to bet this fight. Hopefully, it was morally wrong to them, but it wasn't. It was just because they didn't want to lose money because they didn't know how this fight was going to go either. All right, Mike has made it out of the 6th round. 2 more rounds, and then we don't have to see Mike Tyson laid out on fucking highlight videos. And hopefully he's done after this. Or he fights like Evander Holyfield again. Another old dude. That's the only thing we'll allow, Mike. You can't fight young people. And even that, you can't even give props to Jake Paul for this. You're a piece of shit, Jake Paul, for fighting a 58-year-old man. And I like Jake Paul. But this was a shitty move. You know, all's fair in fighting. Mike signed the contract, Jake signed the contract, but I feel like he hasn't knocked him out yet. Hopefully doesn't knock him out. But if he knocks him out, I feel like I watched a crime. Like this shit never should have happened. I was looking forward to it. I was hoping for the best for Mike. I wanted Mike to knock Jake Paul out. Like I'm sure most of the internet does. Want anyone to knock Jake Paul out, but we really wanted it to be Mike. Oh, Mike's landing left hook. He just landed 2 left hooks, but nothing big. But they glanced him. So 59 out of 200 for Jake, 16 out of 87 for Mike, 29% to 18%. Mike has had very low output. Yeah, Jake's throwing at him. Like, that's how we're looking at this now. He did great for a 58-year-old. He's got to survive 3 more minutes or land something in 3 more minutes. But again, this fight hasn't been too good for Mike. So let's get him just to survive 3 more minutes. I'm not asking for much, Mike. Just don't get knocked out. And even after this, there is no one else. Jake's not allowed to fight anyone old, anyone retired, anyone coming off an injury, anything. We're not fucking taking it. We're not buying. Like, even that's what it must have been too. He must have seen that his shit, his views, the demand for his fights was going down. Oh God, he's landing on Tyson now. He landed a combination, then a left hook. Tyson ate them all though. One more round. One more round. Don't knock Mike Tyson out, Jake Paul. Do not knock Mike Tyson out. Are you guys in the middle of watching this crime as well? Because now I'm starting to feel like a criminal. Like, I watched some fucked up shit. I should have fucking stepped in. Should have said something. You should have fucking stopped them. Mike, again, doing great for a 58-year-old, but this shit's fucking foul. This shit is foul. Jake Paul got me thinking, like, what do you do with your life that this is what you're watching on a Friday night? You're watching me pummel a fucking grandpa. Right there. He landed a good right hand. That was probably better than that, but he just landed probably two or three of the best punches he's landed in the fight. I hope Jake don't have it in him right now to turn it up on Mike. I don't need no crazy ending to this fight. Jake's definitely sizing him up. Mike's trying to use head movement. Mike got to punch when he's punching. That's his only chance. Jake just landed a left hook. Mike counter with a left hook. Mike's definitely not in a good spot, though, right now. Minute left. But yeah, it's just like Roy Jones just said. He's giving him a chance by opening up that much and sitting in the pocket. He hasn't been doing that much, Jake. He gets in, gets out. Because, again, that's Mike's only chance, is to punch while Jake's punching. 45 seconds left. Oh, Mike does not look good. He's crossing his feet, walking around. Jake's jabbing him, trying to size him up for that right hand that he's got cocked back. Oh, he landed it. Mike ate it. Oh, 20 seconds left. There'll definitely be some highlights on TikTok and on the social medias of the punches Mike took, but nothing crazy. 10 seconds left. What a piece of shit, though. We knew Jake Paul was kind of a dick, but what a piece of shit that you let this shit happen. At least Jake's showing a lot of respect to him right now. You're winning me back a little bit, Jake, but real piece of shit move. Guy's fucking 58 years old. You're a piece of shit, Jake. All Jake's team, how could you let that happen? A 58-year-old. Like, Jake needs to like donate his money to charity or something after this one. Mike did great for a 58-year-old. For what we were hoping. We were hoping to see that Iron Mike. We were hoping Jake Paul get fucked up. That didn't. That mic wasn't here tonight. Everyone, everyone in that arena, the 270 million subscribers of Netflix. If any of you tuned in, myself too. I feel like a piece of shit watching that. Terrible. Fucking terrible. I could see that scorecard 78-74. Mike maybe won the first 2 rounds just off no volume, no activity, but just a little bit of glancing shit. But yeah, that was rough. You know, Mike had a little bit in the first round, little bit. He had moments. He landed a few punches, but the whole time my heart was going, waiting to see him get fucking knocked out. And now, you know, he's down. Mike seems like he's down. He shouldn't be. He should be fucking ecstatic. Someone needs to get in his ear and tell him, you're fucking 58, bro. You haven't done this shit in 20 years. Professionally and serious. You know, him versus Roy Jones, they had a gentleman's agreement to not kill each other. There was a, maybe even in the contract, to not kill each other. The person who put on the event said, just go, don't kill each other. This wasn't rigged. Mike was trying to do stuff at 58. Jake at 28 was trying to knock out a 58-year-old, slinging. But again, Jake's very basic boxer. That's what allowed Mike to stay in there, bob, weave, move out of the way of some shit. But yeah, he almost lined up that right hand a few times. He caught Mike on the temple a few times, caught him dead in the fucking middle of the face. Mike wore it well, but Mike definitely looks down right now, like he knows he got his ass kicked for 8 rounds. Like, I think Ali did some exhibitions and shit, but I don't think he took a fucking serious fight when he was old as fuck. Oh man, then Jake Paul just left Mike Tyson hanging. Mike tried to shake his hand, and Jake Paul sprayed his fucking cologne. Not even didn't even see him. Oh, I would love to see Mike just fucking punch Jake Paul's dad right now. Just sucker punch Jake Paul's dad. That'd be fucking great. Oh, that's terrible. You know, that Netflix and Jake Paul and everybody sold me. They sold all of you on nostalgia that you were like, maybe, Mike, maybe. But no, no chance this fight should have even been allowed to take place. Again, I feel a little bit ashamed that I just sat and watched that. Fucking terrible. Oof. Did any of you guys watch the fight? Terrible. Buffalo chicken pizza. That loss goes on Mike Tyson's professional record too. We should all write the athletic commission and be like, don't fucking count that. Don't count that. That's just terrible.
The broadcast team was debating what you were doing with your glove. Was it a mouthpiece issue, or were you just biting on your glove? What was that? Can you tell us?
Oh, I have a habit of biting my gloves on fight, yeah.
Why do you do that?
I have a biting fixation.
I've heard about that. I don't want to know more. Stay right here, Mike, if you can. Jake, back to you. Did this man surprise you? Was he better than you thought he would be?
He's exactly what I thought. One of the greatest to ever do it. He's an icon. He's a legend. So, yeah. But this
Terrible.
is not about me, man. I want to give a thanks to all the real heroes, the U.S. military, the doctors, the nurses in the ER, the cops, the firefighters, the farmers, the truck drivers, all the people who make this world go around. Thank you, America. It's the era of truth. It's the era of good. There's a shift in the world, and good is rising. The truth is rising. I'm just honored to be a part of America, and it feels like we're back there.
Mike, back to you. Now that you've actually gone 8 rounds with Jake Paul, what is your assessment of Jake Paul, the boxer?
Very good fighter.
You think he deserves respect from the public?
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, man. This guy's always had my back. I love him. I love his family, his coaches. I'm Billy White, Raphael, amazing group of people, and it's just an honor to be in the ring with all of them.
Did you try to knock him out?
Man, I was trying to hurt him a little bit, you know. I was scared that he was going to hurt me. I'm trying to hurt him, but, you know, I did my best. I did my best.
Mike, could I ask, you want to do this again, or are you officially done now?
I don't know. It depends on the situation.
What does your gut say right now? Is this possibly the last time?
We don't need to see you do this anymore, Mike.
You got more in you. Comes to mind.
Last time, though, maybe his brother.
You want to fight Logan? Logan, I think he said you might be next.
Oh, fuck, I'll kill you, Mike.
No, please, no.
It's on there.
Just don't step on his toes. It's all forgiven between you two because yesterday...
Logan Paul just said he would kill Mike Tyson.
Fight. You get in the moment. Hey, that was a good slap. I like that.
Mike, final thing for you, to all the 50-year-olds out there, to all the 40-year-olds who grew up watching you, what is the message to those people who thought, you know what, maybe I could do this?
If Jake was crazy, he would slap Mike Tyson right now.
Thank you so much, Mike. Everyone!
And get that slap back.
Tyson! Finally, to Jake Paul, look into your crystal ball for us. Who are you fighting next, and when?
Anyone I want. This is the biggest event. Over 120 million people on Netflix. We crashed the site.
I can't believe they just threw the camera to Logan Paul and he said he would kill Mike Tyson.
You know, I'm not even going to call out specific names, but
How about Canelo? You said Canelo this week.
Like Logan thinks he's as good of a boxer as Jake. I can't wait for that fight one day, or hopefully that fight happens, because I think Jake would fucking destroy Logan.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
thank you.
Morrow, back to you.
All right, Ariel, thank you.
That was
very
terrible.
much. You know, Muhammad Ali said it best. You can hate me, you can hate me, I don't care. Buy a ticket. To the 300.
Hopefully they don't let Mike fight again.
Mike Tyson. Last thing for me, I saw so many fathers and sons, people who saw Mike Tyson and his pride now sharing tonight with their children. And maybe
So we avoided that. It was close. We almost saw Mike Tyson flatlined by Jake Paul. But yeah, there's no highlight really for Mike Tyson in this fight. There's definitely a little highlight reel for Jake Paul, which is unfortunate. You know, he beat a 58-year-old wonky-legged Mike Tyson. Mike was definitely stumbling around, not even because of what Jake was doing to him, but he had a wonky leg. He had like a little leg in this fight.
First Lady of Boxing, you know your stuff, and thank you for sharing it with us tonight.
This was a pleasure. I want to thank you, Mara. I want to thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
This was amazing to sit here. It was such an honor. I want to thank Netflix and MVP Promotions.
Man, definitely didn't make me any sort of a Logan Paul fan. Yeah, that was rough. I would agree. He did not fight tonight. But he was fucking 58 years old on a wonky leg. He got tired. A big adrenaline dump after that first round, especially not having done it so long.
I don't only think I can beat Mike Tyson. I beat Mike Tyson.
And now Jake can go around saying he beat Mike Tyson. He's on Mike Tyson's professional boxing record. It's just terrible.
Still in the ring, just enjoying the moment, soaking it in. I'm Kate Scott with Hall of Famer Andre Ward. Matt, there's almost like a sense of disappointment in the room because I think, like you, everybody was kind of hoping to the last minute, man, he's going to find something special. And well,
I was just hoping he didn't get knocked out to the last minute. In the first minute, I was hoping for something special. And then I knew, if Tyson started up here, it was just going down the whole fight. Because the one thing that he's absolutely not going to have at 58 is cardio. The second thing he's not going to have at 58 is speed. Yeah, power. He might have power. Power doesn't go, but he was in trouble there. He looked, before the fight even started, he looked 58. He looked 68. He looked like he aged 15 years since the weigh-ins. But he was game, but no cardio. You're not going to have cardio at 58. And something that worried me, even that I saw leading up to the fight, I saw clips of that Netflix show they were doing. And just any clips that came out of Mike were like, no, I want to do more. I want to do more. That was probably the people around him shutting him down, saying, that's good for today. That's good for today. Mike knowing that's not how you train for a fight. You fucking train 10 rounds a day, 12 rounds a day, 15 rounds a day, not 8. You can't do 8 a day and then have cardio for an 8-round fight. I don't think it was fixed. I don't think any of the Jake Paul fights are fixed. I think he's just fighting guys strategically with those holes. He's fighting wrestlers that box. The one fighter who should have beat him was Anderson, but then it showed Anderson's not that good of a boxer. Anderson's good with tying everything in, throwing kicks, throwing knees, shocking you with other things. Most of the time in MMA, Anderson fought with his hands down. Woodley usually would get fucked up in MMA, start backpedaling, and then catch somebody with a big right hand. And who else did he beat? And Mike Perry. Mike Perry's got a lot of holes. Jake's very good fundamentally, like sound. He's got a good jab. He throws his right hand. He watches your feet. So if you ever watch Jake fight, he backpedals, he backpedals, he backpedals. When you step in, he tries to catch you in the middle of you resetting your feet. Diaz, I thought Diaz was going to do better against him. And then even Diaz showed his boxing is suspect. Diaz didn't have the speed to hit him, didn't have the power to hurt him. And then you thought Diaz was going to have this cardio and put this pace on him. Just didn't happen. Jake's tough. Something even this fight showed. There's one punch in this fight that when it'll go around the replays and stuff, Mike caught him with a left hook, like right under here, and Jake started sticking his tongue out. Definitely strategic. Definitely very strategic with setting up his fights. And then not only is he strategic with setting up his fights, he's fighting nothing but old people. Nothing but old people. The only young person he fought was Tommy Fury, and Tommy Fury didn't fuck him up, but beat him. So that's like something I said before. Next fight, we can't let Jake Paul fight anyone other than a fucking fighter. Like a legit round his weight, professional boxer. If you want to keep boxing, that's who you're boxing. The same way Dana White came out and said that the only one that John's gonna fight is Aspinall next. You're fighting fucking a good boxer. He was calling out Canelo. You want to jump that ladder? Give him fucking Canelo. Tyson, I don't think he was paid off. I mean, he was paid off by Paul in the sense that he got him a lot of money, but I think that was a real fight. Again, I don't think any of the Jake Paul fights are fixed. I think he's good. He's good enough to beat the fighters he's fighting, and he's strategically picking the right fights. He's picking guys that have holes, guys that aren't, in their prime, never boxed really like that. Like, there's a huge difference from training like Andre Ward and training like Anderson Silva or training like Nate Diaz. They do too much other shit. If all you do is box, if your two-a-days are boxing twice a day versus what you have to do for an MMA fight, you're going to be so much more sound boxing. So much more sound boxing. Boxing is one aspect of combat sports. If that's all you do, you're going to be nice. I don't think he was paid off. Tyson's performance showed it. I don't think it was a fake slap. So what they said about the slap, and you watch it in the replay, is when Jake did the crawl thing, he stepped on Mike's foot. So Mike slapped him. He is a thing. He won't fight a pro boxer his age. The thing with Jake, though, too, is he's fighting superstars in combat, stars in combat, former champions, where a boxer wouldn't be fighting anywhere near those fights. They'd be fighting an 0-7 guy or a journeyman. People, that's why they have so many journeymen in boxing and people that just take fights for money. A guy's a fucking steel worker or he's a carpenter and then he fights on the weekend. That's who you should be fighting at the entry level in boxing. Jake is fighting champions in another combat sport that have names, where the guy who works in a steel mill and fights on the weekend, he has no followers on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok. Mayweather, I think Mayweather's the GOAT. Nah, there's too much money manufacturing a boxer. I think they're actually not making a killing on these fights. I think they're actually losing money. But that's why he fights these fights. These fights make money. When he fights the random boxers, or if he fights any type of boxer that's on his skill level right now or on his trajectory, who he should be fighting at this point in boxing, he shouldn't be anywhere near TV or anything. He should be like an ESPN fight, not a pay-per-view fight or anything he's charging money for. Like a free fight on fucking Tuesday night or Friday night. But yeah, Mayweather's the GOAT. I don't think he's going to fight Mayweather. Jake made over 40 million for this fight, probably more. Hopefully Mike made a serious bag for this fight, especially at 58, to come out and do this shit. Because that shit was terrible. I felt bad watching that shit. Very quick in that. Very quick into that fight. Shame came over me. And I was like, what the fuck are you watching? Like watching, even tomorrow night, when John Jones probably most likely starts pummeling Stipe, I'm going to feel bad for Stipe and be like, why the fuck did they let this guy do this? They let too much time pass. They let him get old, and now he's 42. Granted, Jones is only 37, but 42 is old to be fighting. And I know Stipe did well with his money. He has some money. He had some good fights. He definitely isn't hurting for money. I'm sure he's going to make a nice bag, but yeah, that was rough. But I mean, I would not want to see him fight Mayweather because he's fucking huge compared to Mayweather. At least 30, 40 pounds on him, even when he cuts down. The lowest weight that we've seen Jake make, I think, was 180. Rigged in that he took an old opponent, yeah, but I don't think it was rigged. Tyson showed so much aggression, quickness, and power in his recent training videos. They were very selective with the training videos they put out. And if you watch moments of that fight, he showed that. But again, All Tyson had in this fight was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then he had 10-second spurts at other points in the fight. But after the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds, even after the first round, I thought he looked fucking. When he went back to the corner, you saw him fucking like mentally breathing heavy and thinking like, holy shit, I'm like looking around at his corner like, oh, I'm kind of gassed. How'd I do that round? He's fucking 58. He definitely didn't train for this fight. He wasn't able to train for this fight because he's 58. And then again, Roy Jones kept pointing it out that he didn't like the way he was landing after he would stumble or get hit or rework his feet. He had a wonky leg. He said it after the fight. He didn't want to make excuses, but the guy had a wonky leg. So Jake Paul beat 58-year-old Mike Tyson on a wonky leg. I don't think it was rigged. If it was rigged, no, it wasn't rigged. I was going to say if it was rigged, maybe that's why it went to a decision. But Jake, you'll watch the replay, or if you've seen it, Jake landed some fucking punches on Mike Tyson that would have knocked out or did knock out Woodley, Mike Perry, dropped Anderson. That was the thing I was worried about, was if he did drop Tyson, Tyson wasn't getting up. Was not getting up. He would have fell awkwardly, his wonky leg, he wasn't getting up. I don't think he probably was high as fuck. Could have been ready to go to sleep, but I don't think it was obvious that it was rigged. And I don't think it was obvious he wasn't trying to fight. I think he got tired. So when the fight starts, he felt good for the first 45 seconds to a minute, started getting an adrenaline dump, finished out the first round, and then you saw him get an adrenaline dump. He hasn't fought. When him and Roy Jones fought, they weren't in front of a crowd. That was during the height of COVID, and they fought in an empty warehouse with like 12 people. Yeah, exactly. He was boxing the air. He couldn't close the gap because he didn't have speed. I don't think he was pulling punches. I think he was just swinging and missing. His only chance was to punch, and those were the only punches he landed, was when Jake was trying to hit him. So I don't know if you guys ever trained. When someone hits you, when you get hit, you can close your eyes and catch them. If while their glove's making contact with you or while their fist is making contact with you, you should be able to close your eyes, swing, and hit them. Because they're there. You know they're there. Their arm's only so long. If they hit you and then you wait a second, they might have moved. So then you swing, you're going to miss. But when they make contact, if you're quick, you swing. That's what Tyson was trying to do. He did it a few times, but he was too slow. He had one or two punches, one punch setups. You're not going to get near someone like Jake, who's backpedaling and running the whole time, just trying to fucking jab and gas you out. But yeah, that shit was rough. Just very thankful he didn't get knocked out. But again, we as MMA fans, combat sports fans, boxing fans, do not watch the next Jake Paul fight. Do not tune in. Don't give a fuck about him unless he's fighting a legit boxer. Unless he's fighting another pro boxer with a similar record or someone better. He's not allowed to fight another old dude. He's not allowed to fight another old MMA fighter. That shit was fucking terrible. I hoped, like I'm sure everyone, for that 30-second, 45, 2-minute burst for Mike Tyson, but that shit never came. And instead, I fucking watched an old grandpa get fucked up by Jake Paul. Luckily, he was taking shit, though. Nothing was hurting him too bad. He was eating a lot of that shit. But that shit was rough. Did you guys watch the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight? And how did you think that went? Because I had Katie Taylor losing that fight. I had her losing maybe 7-3, at least 6-4, and she had a point deducted. So at worst, that fight could have been a draw or Serrano's. Tyson took the money in exchange for an L. I'd bet 10K. 10K? No fucking way. He definitely took millions. Millions. 20, I think the number was 20 million to get 58-year-old Tyson to come out. At least 20 million. Jake left his left side wide open to his side. If you saw Jake pull his punch, it was because Jake didn't want to get hit. Jake threw a punch, saw Tyson move, and went, oh, he timed me, and fucking backed out. Yes, awesome bang, not right. Yes. I mean, I could see it. Again, I could see it that people go, these fights are rigged because he's a fucking Disney kid and he's a fucking goofball. But he can box. If you, especially if you look at Jake's lineage, he used to be with BJ Flores. BJ Flores is really good, trains a lot of really good fighters, trains national champions, trains good fighters. Then he was even with Shane Mosley. Then he went to BJ Flores. Then he went back to Shane Mosley. Now he's with I forget the guy he went with last fight. Now he's with another guy. He's always had Jay Leon Love in his corner training with him. He has the guy Larry Wade, who's like a world class strength coach, used to be like a world class sprinter or some type of shit, like knows how to train somebody. What's good, Greasy? Yes, comments. I didn't know how to do it. This is actually the first time I've gone live in a very long time on YouTube or actually made any content on this channel, but hopefully we're making a comeback. Not Jake Tyson. What do you mean high? High standards, higher standards. Awesome banging. Is that what you're talking about? Because, yeah, the Serrano, even the Barrios fight was great. That I was like, fuck, Tyson and Jake Paul are going to have a lot to live up to. And they're not going to live up to it because it's either going to be, hopefully, it would have been Tyson knocking him out or it's going to be Jake flatlining Mike. The fight actually wound up, I don't know what you guys were watching. I was sitting on the edge of my chair hoping Mike didn't get knocked out because that's what it was looking like. Yes, even Paul held back his punches every other fight he was throwing. Bro, he was throwing heavy punches in that fight. He hit Tyson with a couple of right hands, right on the temple, right on the nose. Go watch Mike Tyson fights. The only time you've ever seen Tyson fucked up was Evander Holyfield, who fucking six-pieced him, and the referee stopped it while Tyson was on his feet, and Buster Douglas, who caught him, and he wasn't out. He was on the ground looking for his mouthpiece. Wasn't out cold. Tyson's never been put out cold. Lennox Lewis, he got dropped and was looking up at the lights there. Probably could have got up, chose not to. And then every other fight, he got leaned on, fell over and said, I'm done, hurt his knee. You know, I don't want to say quit, but quit. It gets fucking tough in there. Like I think Michael Chandler said it today. He's like, every fighter, everyone has quit in them. It's who you can get pushed to that point. Oh, Jake don't sleep Mayweather. But yes, I remember you, Jake sleeps Mayweather. All is well. Back on the mend, coming back to life. Hope all is well with you as well. I don't think any punches were pulled in that fight. I think they were both swinging. Mike Tyson's just 58, so he was swinging and missing because Jake wasn't there. And then the times he was there, he was catching Jake in exchanges. I'd have to rewatch the fight too, and then I'll see everything. But the punches that I saw land were real punches. Mike took real punches that I went, oh shit, he got caught. He ate them. Tyson pulled his punch. Tyson pulled the punch, and Jake never moved his left arm. Yes, Tyson got frustrated as fuck by Holyfield. Holyfield, same as that Katie Taylor fight. Holyfield's style is he only goes forward. So if you go forward, he's going to headbutt you. People used to say Holyfield would do it on purpose. I think Holyfield just headbutted people because all he did was go forward. It's looking like we're going to see probably Jake McGregor. That's where this trajectory of life is leaning on. What am I tripping about? Yes, we do need another Kayla Harrison interview. Tyson Paul fight was rigged. If you won't see it, you're allowing yourself to get gaslit and played into the game. I don't think it was rigged. I don't think any of these Jake Paul fights are rigged. I just think they're terrible matchups. We're talking about a 58-year-old. Go watch the fight again. Jake Paul was trying to knock him out. The problem in some of the exchanges where it looked rigged was Jake thought he got time. So if you ever trained, There's a lot of shit like that that happens, and it's not on TV. When you see it on TV, that's what it looks like. Like, oh, they're pulling punches, or he backed out, whatever. No, no, no. You threw something, and in the middle of the exchange, you thought you were about to get clipped, so you wind up like flailing out of there and looking like, oh, you pulled your punch, or you backed away, but they weren't trying to hit each other. No, a lot of times even you'll see with guys, they do footwork and they time each other, and you're like, why didn't he punch right there? It's because he thought he got time. They got each other's timing. That's what you're moving around. That's what a fight is all about, timing. Once you get the guy's timing, you'll start reacting like that, like you're pulling punches, and you'll move in, and it's like, oh no, that wasn't time to attack because he had me timed. And the punch that hurts you the most is the one you don't see, but it's also the one when you're coming in. So it's when you get timed. The punch you don't see is the guy timed you. If Tyson was throwing that fight, he would have took the right hand, sat on his ass, and got counted out. I think Tyson at any age has an iron jaw. But I think McGregor would fight him. So McGregor has said, he came out and said that he wants out of his UFC deal. If he gets out of his UFC deal, him versus Jake Paul is actually the biggest fight he can make. Boxing world's manufacturing next superstar. Yeah, boxing's terrible. I don't think they have chosen Jake Paul. I think Jake Paul is completely on his own. If you're talking about who boxing has chose, that would be like the way they had Devin Haney, but he got fucked up by Garcia. The way that there's a different side of boxing, which was the Mayweather side, which is where it's like Carmel Moulton's really good. They're building him up. Gervonta Davis. But I don't think Jake's the chosen one. And then if you go on the other side, it's Canelo, and Canelo takes tough fights. He definitely avoids some people, but what do you mean from your point of view? Like, you've pulled punches? Yeah, you pull a punch when you think you're gonna get hit. That's when you watch a fight. That's what it looks like. Let's see. Oh, I missed that one. As for Tyson, I counted about 6 punches per round, and I counted the punches he did. 96 punches. Man, so I'm not buying it. Yeah, but again, I guess we have a difference of opinion there. I think that was a legitimate fight. No punches were pulled. I don't even think Jake was going easy on him. I think they were both trying to knock each other out. That's what a fight looks like sometimes. What would they would both lose so much more from people finding out the fight was rigged, or the fight looking like it was rigged. They would lose so much in that. Make it look good throwing a fight. Who threw the fight? They were both throwing punches, both trying. Mike Tyson didn't have a gas tank to throw more than 4 punches around, and he wasn't fighting to what he could have done, fighting to his strength. He needed to punch when Jake punched and get inside. He couldn't do it. I see that's like the number one comment about a Jake Paul fight, is that it's rigged. I don't think they're rigged. I just, again, think terrible stylistic matchups for his opponents. And Jake has good fundamentals. We saw it even against Tyson. Strategically, Jake, if the fight wasn't rigged, waited Tyson out. The first round, he didn't throw a punch. He threw like 2 punches, 3 punches the first round, and threw him at the end. And then second round did the same thing. That's actually what I said before the fight. If Jake's smart, just wait a minute and 30 seconds of every round, and then win the last 30 seconds. Well, make it look real enough for people to say, oh, he's 58. That would have been knocking him out. And then saying he's 58. Or you think they were placating for old people, for old viewers, and trying to get new subscribers out of old people? Because that's the thing, too. It was on Netflix. So if anyone was going to rig it, it was Netflix behind it rigging it. Netflix and Jake Paul. How much, and Mike Tyson, his face at the end of the fight was such utter disappointment. He looked like his dog just died. I don't know if I'd have that look if I just took a dive and know that I have $1,000,000. Are you telling me now that they told Mike Tyson to act? Because we've seen Mike Tyson act. He's not a good actor. He's good when he plays Mike Tyson and like a fictitious version of himself. Every time he hit his glove. No pulled punches. There were no pulled punches in that fight. And if you saw something that looked like a pulled punch, it was because the guy who pulled the punch thought he got timed and thought he was about to get hit by a counter. The one thing Jake did not want to do in that fight was get hit by a counter punch. So if you watch old Mike Tyson fights, Mike Tyson used to push his gloves back all the time like this, and then as the fight would start, he used to not bite the thumb. He used to bite right here. All the time. All the time. So that's nothing new, him biting his glove. We'll go watch an old Mike Tyson fight. He used to do it all the time. No, I do not think WWE is real. I just know what fighting looks like. And we're taking into account, you're saying a fight between a YouTuber who turned a boxer and a 58-year-old boxer was rigged. I don't think it was rigged. Okay, now you're adding factors. So now, all right, maybe he was disappointed or ashamed that he threw the fight. Again, I think if they ever were found out for rigging or throwing the fight, they lose so much more. They lose all credibility. Not that Jake has much credibility now with what he's doing, but he thinks he does. And Mike, that would tarnish his whole legacy. Like, you started taking fixed fights. That's funny though, the WWE is real comment. Tyson acted for me. Tyson is a terrible actor. He was definitely Paul's punching bag, but again, 58 years old, gassed very quickly. Oh, Jake pays a lot for his training camp. I don't know what you think I'm selling. What am I selling? I just don't think the fight was fixed. I don't think the fight was rigged. I think we saw a 58-year-old who hasn't fought in 20 years, who did an exhibition where they go. You want to watch a rigged fight, a fixed fight? Go watch Roy Jones versus Tyson. They were told before that fight, go the full fight and don't kill each other. So there you go. You want to see a fixed fight versus a real fight? Go watch Tyson versus Roy Jones and then watch Jake Paul versus Tyson. Jake Paul and Tyson hit each other. Mike landed at least one good punch. That one punch where Tyson started nodding his head and Jake stuck his tongue out. That punch was not a pulled punch, was not a fake punch, wasn't a movie punch, anything like that. Jake, I think the second round, third round, punched Mike right here. So there's no we're risking a fixed fight with me punching you dead in the fucking face. Let's see. No Jake Paul fights were rigged. None. You don't know real versus fake. You're assuming Jake Paul is fake. And listen to any pro, semi-pro boxer review Paul's fight footage. They all shit on his performance. I shit on his performances too. And guess what? Semi-pro boxer. Never fought professionally, but trained my whole life. Started boxing when I was 7. Grew up in the PALs. Grew up in MMA gyms. But he's actually a Disney star YouTuber, and he is a real fighter. 100%. 100%. I've actually seen Jake's training firsthand with my eyes. And I've talked to Jake's training partners. I've talked to Jake's coaches. He trains with legit people. He trains in legit gyms. He doesn't train in wild card or like gyms like that where like Mario Lopez and celebrities train. Jake trains in legit, dirty, grimy boxing gyms where he wouldn't be accepted. If he paid everybody in the gym, they still wouldn't accept him. There'd be people talking shit about him, about how he doesn't train. Like, that's how the boxing community is. It's real, it's grimy, it's hood. There's no way that they would accept Jake Paul, especially the gyms he comes from, if he wasn't really training. And again, bro, he trains with Jalen Love. Look up Jalen Love. Jalen Love was very close to being a world champion. Was around Mayweather for 10 years. Used to be part of the money team. Used to be the guy that Mayweather thought was going to be somebody, but then he took an L and Mayweather kind of fucking dropped him. But that guy's been with Jake Paul since day one. Been like Jake Paul's number one guy since day one. If Jake Paul is so legit, why do semi-pro box? His performances, again, he's very basic, but he trains. And why do they shit on his performance? Because that gets clicks, making videos like that. I agree, him as a boxer is a joke, but he takes it serious. And no, these gyms don't accept him because he has hundreds of millions of dollars. They accept him and brought him into the community and accept him into the culture because he legitimately trains. I didn't see Jake gas out tonight. I think that's actually one thing that I thought the MMA fighters would have on him, and none of them have out cardioed him. Nate Diaz didn't out cardio him. Who's the other one that I thought? I thought Anderson was old, but I thought Mike Perry would have better cardio than him. Then we saw Tommy Fury had better cardio than him. But yes, Jake Paul is legit. He trains legit, and he's winning fights. There's no way. So you're telling me Mike Tyson, Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz, Mike Perry, Tyron Woodley, all these people got paid to lose. They all took a bag of money from Jake Paul to lose. And now you're going to put that over here, and now you're going to think how much more money they make if they knock Jake Paul out, how much their stock rises or their name value rises if they're the one that knocks Jake Paul out. Same as the Conor McGregor effect. Whoever knocks out Jake Paul is going to get that rub of all Jake's YouTube subscribers, all of his following on Instagram. So there used to be a thing where when you beat Conor McGregor, not fight Conor McGregor, fight him, you'll go up a little bit, but you beat Conor McGregor, you're a superstar. Whoever knocks out Jake Paul is going to be on the fucking news. Not the MMA news, they're going to be on the fucking news. Like, oh, in combat sports today, Jake Paul, professional YouTuber turned boxer, Jake Paul took a devastating loss against former MMA fighter. Jake knocks them out and it doesn't make the news because it's like, oh, what the fuck is this? He's, beating up old guys, beating up fucking MMA fighters. We don't really cover MMA. But make no mistake, Jake Paul's a fucking celebrity that if Jake Paul got knocked out in a boxing fight, that's going to be big fucking news. Your stock goes up way more knocking him out than taking a bag of money. Because you're going to, maybe I'm wrong. I think you're going to make a lot more money with what happens to your name after you knock Jake Paul out. And again, semi-pro boxers or people on YouTube channels that shit on Jake Paul's boxing, those MMA fighters have such a huge fucking ego that it's going to take fucking $30 million, $20 million, 30, who fucking knows the number for them to go, nah, you know what? I'll let Jake Paul knock me out tonight. I'll let Jake Paul drop me and make me look like shit and tarnish my legacy. You think Anderson Silva took a bag of money to be like, all right, I'll lose to Jake Paul? No fucking chance. You think Tyron Woodley said, I saw people say Woodley hitched his glove and said, now hit me. You're a fucking idiot if you think boxers are getting knocked unconscious when they could knock the other guy out and make just as much, if not more money. Think about it. Jake Paul has only fought one pro boxer and he lost. That fight was close though, too. That would be a question of why he isn't legit. I agree, but he trains legitimately. And for a 10-1 boxer with no amateur career, he looks good. If he looked fucking atrocious, he wouldn't be winning fights. These MMA fighters who trained all these other disciplines but trained boxing would have been good enough to beat him. Jake has very, very sound fundamentals. He lifts his chin sometimes and has holes that a lot of novice boxers without an amateur career are going to make. But if you go watch other pro fighters, I'll use like Deontay Wilder, who had a little bit of an amateur career, but not a long amateur career. Go watch other boxers, and that's why you don't see many of them, but who didn't have a long amateur career that box. They make those mistakes. They don't have the reps in, like someone like Mayweather or Carmel Moulton, who have hundreds of amateur fights. To work tonight for both boxers, less than 30 minutes and lots of hype. Hype pays off big when promoted well. Yeah. Again, even for Netflix, for them to go 8 rounds, what do you think would have made the news more? Would have made the whole fucking event below would have been one of them face down on the canvas or laid out looking up at the lights. There's no, oh, we paid $50 million to rig this fight, and then we got all this clout because they went 8-round boring decision. Makes sense. Paul versus Woodley fight, each earned $2 million. I don't know if Woodley earned that much. I feel like I saw the release on that, and Woodley earned $500,000. You don't know Woodley. There's absolutely no chance that he paid off Woodley. Woodley loves no one more than himself. Woodley left the UFC on a losing streak, but could have probably stayed or kept fighting MMA and making a bag. Chose to go over to boxing because he was going to get paid more money, not to go get knocked out and bring his stock down. I don't even know if Netflix made a killing. Do you think people joined up tonight to watch that fight, or they were just marketing that fight to their already subscribers and trying to make fucking noise on the internet? I feel like that was the route they were going more than anything, just to bring eyes. I don't know if they got too many new viewers. They probably made a lot in advertising. But even there, I feel like maybe on the canvas and stuff, there weren't really commercials during that. Oh, so you did sign up tonight, yeah. I didn't hear the number that they got paid, but I'd imagine there's no way Tyson did this for less than 10, 20 million. And Jake Paul, I know, was who they initially brought it to. But yeah, if you signed up tonight, I guess maybe a lot of people did. But I think most people already have Netflix. But yeah, take away that Tyson Paul fight. I think that's what I heard. 20 million was for Tyson. I didn't hear what Paul's number was, but 40 sounds logical. And then I know initially the deal was brought to Jake Paul, and Jake Paul was going to do the first Netflix live boxing fight, and then he picked Tyson. So there you go. If they're both guaranteed 20 million and 40 million, what do they want to rig the fight if the fight's rigged? I think fighters have too much pride, especially if you're making 20 million, 40 million. Like Mike Tyson, do you realize the superstar that Mike Tyson would have become if he knocked Jake Paul out tonight? And do you realize the fucking clout that Jake Paul would have got? Jake Paul would have been a meme all over the internet if he knocked Mike Tyson out or got knocked out tonight. So for both of them, so much benefit would have came out of knocking the other person out or finishing them rather than a boring 8-round decision. But yeah, I can't see that fight being rigged. I think, and I don't want to say put respect on Jake Paul's name because he beat a 58-year-old, but you got to put some respect on Jake Paul's boxing ability. Because I think a lot of lesser people would have got fucked up by 58-year-old Tyson. Surprisingly, the arena looked filled. I heard that the ticket sales were not doing good. So they might have gave a lot of those ticket sales away. Because that's a big venue to fill. The venue looked filled when they did the camera pan. Betting, they banned the fight in 8 states. I'm in New York and it was banned in New York. YouTube stream revenue, I don't think they streamed it on YouTube, but they did stream the undercard. Definitely so much money involved in this fight. I think part of it too was Jake Paul. Netflix put up a lot of money. The same way Netflix puts up money for comedy shows and gets someone under a contract, they got Jake Paul under a contract. Like Jake Paul's next few fights, I think, are going to be on Netflix. Or he's going to be putting most valuable promotions on Netflix. Like I would watch fucking any boxing fight on Netflix. So I think they definitely should start. I saw they asked Dana White about it, and Dana White said that Netflix is behind, but he could see Netflix becoming the biggest thing in the game. And then I forget who he was talking to, but they asked him, when it's time to renegotiate your streaming rights, would you go for Netflix? And he was like, absolutely. I would definitely look into Netflix. So we might be seeing UFC on Netflix. For sure. They definitely made a lot of money on YouTube and all the things. I get what you're saying now. I thought you meant like as if they streamed the fight. But even they did stream the prelims on YouTube, and I saw the prelims had like 500,000 views. So, but a lot of boxing is made, especially a fight like that, is made on ad revenue. And the actual Netflix thing, I didn't see any. I don't remember seeing any ads running on that. You know, the few sponsors that were on the canvas probably paid a pretty penny. But even that, I know that they did like a lead up thing to it too. The fucking Netflix had like a 4-part, a 5-part embedded type of show leading up to the fight. And even ticket sales, I'm sure for what they sold for the lower bowl, a lot of celebrities and fucking rich people live in Arlington, in that area of Texas. Oh yeah. I feel like Jake is gonna get shit for that fight. I think he rightfully should. And I like Jake Paul. I like that he took boxing. I don't like Jake Paul for where he came from and what he used to be. But if you're going to tell me he's a boxer who takes his shit serious, I don't mind Jake Paul. I like Jake Paul. But yeah, I felt bad for him tonight. I felt bad for myself watching it. And then even after the fact, when the fight's over, you're like, bro, I feel bad for you now. You fucking couldn't knock out a 58-year-old. But credit to Mike Tyson. I think Mike Tyson has always had an amazing chin, and Jake's just not that guy. Jake's also a probably 170-pound, 180-pound boxer. How old are you, JP? Because we'll be waiting for that, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. Prime seats tickets were selling for over 1 million. I didn't see that, but that's fucking crazy if it was. I saw the one seats. Those were probably fucking crazy, where the people were sitting with their own little lounge, like a couch and their own TV right there, ringside. Before Tyson checks out, I don't think we're getting that answer. What flaws did she see? What flaws did your wife see in a boxing fight? Again, watching a not the best boxer in Jake Paul and a 58-year-old guy who hasn't fought in 20 years. If you want to watch a fixed fight, go watch Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones. So if there were punches being pulled, how do you explain the left hook that Tyson landed and I forget which round, and all the right hands that Jake Paul was banging off Tyson's temple. And the one time that he caught him clean with a right hand dead in the middle of the face, and the left hooks. He threw 3 left hooks in a row that stumbled Mike, and then Mike started covering up and moving his head. If punches were being pulled, how do you explain those punches? Because you can't tell me, oh, they were soft or they just had to throw punches to make it look real. No, because at any point, any one of those punches could have ended the fight and ruined their whole plan of fixing the fight. 2 million VIP package. That's fucking crazy. I could see that though. I know that that's a really nice stadium, the Cowboys Stadium. One thing I noticed was the Cowboys cheerleaders. Whoever has that job is the luckiest fucking guy in the world. They have not an unattractive one in the bunch, and there was like 50 of them, 60 of them. I don't know what Torque Law Boy is. I don't know. I mean, he was paid to box a lot of money. And even that, going into that fight, the way that they had the build up, the short little clips they showed, how Tyson was talking. Tyson thought he was going to win that fight. Even as a 58-year-old man. Whose hats was Torkla on? Oh, Torkla boys were the guys sitting in the VIP booth. Yeah, those seats, if they were $2 million or $1 million, that's fucking crazy. For Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, or Mike Tyson fight 20 years ago, that would have been, a cool event. I guess now, just to see him on his farewell tour like that, or if you paid $2 million to sit ringside to a Jake Paul fight, you got a lot of fucking money to waste. Oh, so now we're talking about magic tricks we're going on with the pulled punches? Tyson had to talk tough and act like he was going to win. I don't think so. You ever see the interview of Joe Rogan where he had Tyson on and Tyson said the reason I don't train no more is because it ignites my ego. And then when he fought Roy Jones and he was training and Joe Rogan saw him and was like, he completely fucking changed. He was a completely different person. And Mike even said, it ignites a different fucking person inside of me. And you saw that person, that side of Tyson come out. And that's a real thing for anyone who fucking trains and then stops training. Once you start training again, you get back in shape, you feel like you're fucking invincible. You feel like Superman. That was definitely what Mike was feeling, even at 58. Was feeling like, I think at 58, I could beat Jake Paul. I could turn back the clock and fucking beat Jake Paul. You believe what you seen was real? Real, I mean, it was a fight between a 58-year-old and a 28-year-old. What was Tyson's rigged fight? And that it's public knowledge. Tyson was never in a rigged fight. What rigged fight was he in? And again, oh, Tyson versus Jones. They told you it was rigged, though. Yes, that was a rigged fight. They told you it was rigged, though. I thought you're talking about, I am high, but I thought you were talking about from his actual fighting career, not the one that they told you was rigged. That was an exhibition, wasn't a pro fight, and they both came out and said that they were told not to kill each other. No, they didn't. They told you that it was going to be an exhibition and that they weren't going hard before the fight. That fight was known to be an exhibition, rigged fight, if you call it, the whole time. Again, I just think each fighter, or anyone who fought Jake Paul for that matter, you gain so much more in winning the fight than losing the fight. like Mike Tyson would have catapulted back into superstardom if he would have beat Mike Tyson. The fight in general with Roy Jones was rigged. They both knew going in that they weren't really fighting, and they were told to go the full distance and the fight would be a draw. They were told to just go out and put on a show. Again, I don't think any Jake Paul fights are rigged. I think what we're seeing just gets perceived as rigged or a fix because you don't think he's going to win. And tonight, he fought a 58-year-old. Mike went out there to win for the 2 minutes that he had in his cardio. That's what it is, too, though. He's 58. He definitely wasn't able to train good for the fight. He had shit cardio. He gassed after one round. A minute and a half into the first round. Well, I don't think we're ever going to see Tyson admit that it was rigged. If we do, then didn't look rigged. They hit each other a couple of real times. I think what you're going to get from Tyson is like he was elaborating to after the fight is just, not excuses, but reasons. He had a wonky leg. He was fucked up. Didn't get to train for the fight. He's 58. He's got a bad back, bad knees, bad joints. I'm actually better when I'm high. I smoke for pain. You're watching a 58-year-old fight a guy who, by your and most people's standards, isn't a good boxer. That's why it looked like a shit fight. It wasn't like you were watching Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, which is the two of the top women's fighters. I feel like Jake's always breathing heavy, but he hangs in there. He's displayed pretty good cardio, I think, in a lot of his fights. I thought for sure he would gas against Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz would have something for him. And even tonight, you saw, Jake's strategy was just move away from Mike. Move away from Mike. Let Mike move for 30, 40 seconds around where he's going to zap himself out. And again, 58. There's no way he had a great training camp or even a good training camp when standard getting ready for a professional fight. He had probably a good training camp for a 58-year-old. I don't know how old you guys are. I'm 38. I'm old as fuck now. When I used to train, I would feel, you feel the train for a few days. Eh, you might have been around for over 35 years, but you have a little bit of naivety to it to see a fight and go, oh, they're pulling punches. This fight's rigged just because you didn't get the result you wanted. Oh, that's great. So I remember even that's what it was for me tonight, that nostalgia, and that's what I was hoping on was that he would have something like he used to have, because that's how I even got into combat sports. Like the first combat sport I remember watching was a Tyson fight when I was a little kid. I'm jaded in what? Again, if they were pulling punches, there wouldn't have been real punches in the fight. If it was rigged, it would have looked like Roy Jones, Jake Paul, where they don't try to hit each other in the face. You know, Jake even said after the fight, he was just trying not to get timed and knocked out. Well, I don't think they had to make it look real. I think it was real. It was just Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. It wasn't Canelo versus fucking Bivol. It was Jake Paul versus 58-year-old Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Again, how much would they had to have gotten paid to rig the fight? If you're Mike Tyson or you're Jake Paul, or for instance, if you're Mike Tyson, what number are you telling them to? If you're already making 20 million, What number are you demanding to rig the fight and get punched around the ring for a couple rounds? No, because you're the only person saying that there was lies. I watched the fight. There would not have been the punches to the temple, the punches to the nose, or the punches to the chin if they weren't trying to hurt each other. They both just weren't hanging out in the pocket. Both were reacting to each other when they got close because they both didn't want to get knocked out. They both had that fear while they were in there tonight. Like, might get knocked out. And again, Mike Tyson had that nostalgia that Jake Paul probably watched Mike Tyson fights when he was a little kid, seen the highlights, seen him knock people out. And Mike was 58, so he didn't want to embarrass himself getting knocked out. Well, we're not talking about you. We're talking about Mike Tyson. What would Mike Tyson had to have made to go out there and look like a scrub and ruin his legacy and taint all the years of boxing that he did? I don't think Tyson has financial problems anymore. Just need an audience and people like you who are easy to fool. Yep. No, I don't think it was rigged. And no, I don't think I'm easy to fool. I've seen a lot of fights. I've actually seen endless fights. Don't think either one of them was pulling punches. Think they were reacting to getting caught in the pocket. Oh, he definitely took that fight for a payday, but I don't think it was rigged. If he got knocked out by Jake Paul, that would have destroyed his legacy. And even taking that loss, he didn't look like a guy who made 40 million or made an extra 20 or 60 million on top of what he was getting paid. And I just think too much pride. You got to look at guys like that at the highest level that have been at the highest level that were once called the baddest men on the planet. Way too much pride, I think, to take a dive. And you think if Jake or Netflix or whoever was paying an extra 20 million, they would have said, just go 8 rounds. Let it be a decision. No, they would have been like, all right, I'm going to give you 20 million. I'm going to give you 40 million to knock you the fuck out. Just like I paid Tyron Woodley. Just like I paid Mike Perry, get knocked out. No, there's no way he gave Mike the pass, paid all the other guys off, but then said, Mike, we're going to a decision. You go rewatch the fight and you'll see. Watch the highlights that are probably on TikTok or any of the social media apps right now. There were real punches landed in the fight. And no, they were not thrown to make it look real. They were thrown with the intentions of knocking the other out. That's why you watch professional fights at the highest level sometimes go to a decision because you just don't find the spot. You don't knock the guy out. You don't TKO the guy. So we'll have to agree to disagree on that. It wasn't a magic trick. It wasn't WWF. I don't even know what that means. It happens all the time in WWF. And there are professional fighters that have gone over WWF. Yeah, and then they go to WWF and they throw fake punches, what look like fake punches. What you saw tonight that you guys might have thought was them pulling punches or them holding back was movement, movement. They both got within punching range and both thought or felt, I'm about to get hit, I'm about to get clapped, so they back out. Or you go to throw a punch and then you realize you're about to get countered, so you fucking take it away and you put your defense up and you back the fuck out. No pulled punches, no fake fight. That was a 58-year-old versus Jake Paul. Well, he got robbed by Don King and pissed away a lot of his money. Like, there's crazy stories on Mike Tyson with his money, but he got robbed by Don King for the most part. I believe 400, 300, definitely a high number, where he thought he was going to the bank one day to look at how much he had, and he had like 50 million or something. And he was like, where the fuck is all my money? And then he actually went, asked Don King. Don King gave him a story, and there's a story of him beating up Don King in a limo on the side of the road and kicking Don King out of the limo because he found out Don King stole all his money. But yeah, notorious for money problem. But again, I don't think he would rig a fight against Jake Paul. He could have made a lot more money not rigging the fight. If he knocks Jake Paul out, he makes a lot more money. Yes, Bob Hope. Also, you got to factor in Mike Tyson partied. Uh, yes, and the example I'll use actually is older, but I'll use RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., who I think is 70, but I think he has like fake knees and fake shoulders, all types of surgeries he's already been through. He looks good. He looks like a jacked old dude, but yeah, you get fucked up as you get old. Father Time is undefeated. It is a rule of fighting and just a rule of life, but it's a very common expression in fighting. Father Time is undefeated. Mike retired in his 30s, late 30s. I mean, you could think clearly paid off. I think he was just 58, and we set the expectations high because of what he's done in the past and the little short clips that we had in the trailers leading up to the fight and on social media. The expectations for Mike were high. We saw this and we went, oh shit, he's back. He's got it. We saw him cracking the pads that don't hit back, throwing little combinations. Expectations were very high for Mike tonight. Oh yeah. Even at 63, you could still throw some punches, but you feel it. And that's what Mike was going through. You can't string together high level training days. He definitely wasn't able to get ready for this fight the way he would have even 10 years ago. Even the way he got ready for it, he looked like he was in better shape because he was probably on better gear than the Roy Jones fight. But 54 is different from 58, I feel. 58 is definitely way different than 38. And then even remember, towards the end of Mike's career, Mike was a drug addict who was an alcoholic who didn't really train for those fights, just took them for money. But you look back 30 years ago when he was in his 20s and he was really training. Even when I've heard stories of Mike Tyson's training falling off, and you could watch his fights and see it definitely fell off after prison. Before prison, he trained like a fucking animal, put in a lot of rounds, put in a lot of work every day. After prison, he didn't have the same people around him. He trained when he wanted to. He had money. And you saw it in his fighting. His head movement was gone. His hand speed deteriorated. Tonight, yesterday, whatever you want to call it, we just saw the 20 years more added on to that. Not to mention he took a good 10, 15 years off from training. I don't think he refused to fight. I just think he was old and gassed. He probably had experienced an adrenaline dump right at the start of the fight. Like even I heard him say it with the Roy Jones fight. He was nervous. He felt like it was his first fight. That was them knowing that they were going in and not trying to kill each other. Tonight, by my standards, they were going in there knowing that they were in a real fight. His nerves were probably fucking shot. Even before the fight, he probably had a little adrenaline dump. Adrenaline was fucking probably spiked, heart rate racing. He was probably fatiguing 20, 30 seconds, 45 seconds into that first round. Then caught himself a little bit. And then if you watch the end of that first round, him going back to the corner, you see his face, deer in headlights, like, holy shit, I'm back in here, but I was not ready for this. Not tonight. This fight looked like Tyson refused to fight. No, I have over like 25 years of boxing experience. High level jiu-jitsu practitioner, wrestled, kickboxed, Muay Thai. But I started boxing when I was 7 years old. I have some amateur fights. Stayed around the sport my whole life. So a lot more than watched and spectated. I trained with some of the highest level boxers in the world, some of the highest level MMA fighters in the world. Real estate's a great racket. But yeah, I did jiu-jitsu from 13 to 31 and then stayed around the sport. I boxed from 7 to 31, stayed around the sport. I still box recreationally. No, I don't think Jake Paul's boxing career is based off of rigging. Which UFC fighters were relatively young. I think they were all old and over the hill. And boxing is one aspect of MMA. So if they're not boxing full time and Jake's boxing full time, then it's a toss up of a fight. All of them should have fucked up Jake. I think they all underestimated Jake. And Jake's got good fundamentals. He makes mistakes, he's got holes, but that's expected when you don't have as many amateur fights as what we're used to seeing. We're holding him against a standard of Mayweather. Mike didn't even have that many amateur fights, but Mike had fucking crazy training. And then you look at guys like Canelo, um, just Gervonta Davis, Carmel Moulton. All these guys have a lot of amateur fights. I believe most do have, to my experience, to see a fight was thrown. Disagree. I don't think that fight was fixed. Don't think that fight was thrown. A lot of fighters, especially at the highest level, have tremendously large egos. It's going to take a lot of money and just you don't realize the mental tax that would come out if they found out and were made to be a fraud. Jake's a genius when it comes to who he picks to fight, and I don't think he's going to fight a real boxer. But again, as the combat sports community, I think we absolutely cannot tune into Jake's next fight. We must demand that he fights a boxer, either with more fights than him as a boxer or someone on his skill level. And even then, that's why he fights these type of fights. He fights MMA fighters with millions of followers on Instagram and social media. He fights Tommy Fury, who is a boxer but not a boxer. Like Tommy Fury is Tyson Fury's little brother who was on TV shows, on celebrity fucking dating shows. I'm talking like a boxer. But again, I don't even know what weight Jake actually would fight at because he jumps around a lot, but he needs to fight a legit boxer, not a Tommy Fury. Or rematch Tommy Fury. But even that, I don't think Tommy Fury, what has he fought? Once since then, he fought KSI. And that fight was way more competitive. That's actually who it is. He could fight KSI or a boxer. We can't allow any other fights. Again, don't see it. Had world class trainers, been around world class boxers, been around world champion boxers. Riddick Bowe is a family friend. Have been around the sport my whole life. If you're rigging a fight and fixing a fight, I don't think you're punching each other with punches that are in spots where you could knock the other guy out. Either one of them could have rocked the other one and then the whole fucking fix goes out the window. And if they're going to fix it, it would probably be for someone to go down. It wouldn't be for a boring decision. And I think most of the people that are going to say it's rigged just don't like Jake Paul and they can't believe that he's beating fucking fighters. But yeah, we gotta make Jake. We gotta try to hold Jake accountable and have him fight. What did Don King get away with for years? Robbing fighters or fixing fights? Oh, don't get me wrong. There are fixes in combat sports. In boxing, there have been fixes in the past, but that's not what they look like. Ben Askren did not take Jake Paul seriously and is not a good boxer by any realm of combat. Terrible boxer. Anderson was old as fuck and showed that boxing actually isn't his strong suit. It was a lot of mixing up, and I think his win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was Julio Cesar Chavez is a fucking jerk off and wasn't taking anything seriously. Like right place, right time. And Woodley, don't even know what the fuck happened there. Woodley should have beat him, but then Woodley also showed, if you watch his boxing fights and then you watch how he actually fought in MMA, it adds up. He usually would get fucked up in MMA and just land a big power shot. Backpedal, 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 and catch somebody. Where that's what Jake actually did to him, was just timed him. 40s is deteriorated as fuck. Yeah, it depends on the athlete. Ben Askren had just come off hip surgery and had all types of injuries. Anderson had a broken leg that he never really fully came back from, never really recovered from. On top of, like, Anderson had so many gym wars and probably concussions and was way more fucked up mentally and physically than I think we all ever realized. Woodley, I know, had like blown out shoulders. Woodley had a lot of injuries throughout his career, but yeah, I thought Woodley would actually have been the one to be young enough to do something to Jake. But yeah, they were all washed up. Over the hill, way past their prime. Yeah, Jake's young. I don't know if you ever seen Jake's an athlete. You ever see like even Jake has a good 40 time? Like Jake is he's a good athlete, Jake. We sleep on him, but he trains with the right people, he trains with legit people, he spars legit people. Yes, he's not fighting boxers. He's fighting MMA fighters that are not good boxers. So someone else brought this up to me was that I know Ryan Garcia said that he would fight Jake if Jake beat Mike. Ryan Garcia would have to come up a lot of weight to fight Jake Paul for unless it would be an exhibition. There's no athletic commission that would approve Jake weighing 190, 180 and Ryan Garcia weighing 150. And even then, Jake's a lot bigger than him. Ryan should fuck him up, but there's a realm where Jake fucking lands on Ryan Garcia too, which is fucking terrible. You know, Jake's you got to take Jake seriously. Granted, not after tonight. We'll forget about tonight. We got to take Jake seriously off the couple of MMA fighters he beat and the couple of scrub boxers he beat. That if you put Jake in there with a boxer around his experience, he's competitive. Uh, don't think it was a fix. Think it was a 58-year-old versus Jake Paul. Canelo would fucking kill Jake. But Canelo is a big dude. Canelo's 175. Probably can weigh 200. Canelo's a big dude. And yeah, I got to make a highlight of the punches that were landed in that fight. You don't throw you're not going to land those type of punches in a fixed fight. You're going to land body punches, you're going to punch in the chest. You're going nowhere near the head in a fixed fight. I did think that Jake would have trouble being 230, knowing that he never fought at that weight before, but he trained his cardio good enough to outpace the 58-year-old. But I definitely thought he was going to be fucked up cardio wise, carrying that much weight. Jake did fight a couple of pro boxers, but I know the one guy he fought, the guy hadn't fought in like fucking 5 years. The other guy, I think both of he fought the bald dude and the fucking other dude that he knocked out with an uppercut. They were both pro boxers, but I think both had been out of the ring for a while. So same as the MMA fights, he's picking the right opponents. Yeah, I'm gullible. I just was watching the fight, so saw real punches get landed. Don't think they would have thrown those type of punches in a fix. And again, Jake Paul catapults even higher if he knocks Mike Tyson out. Mike Tyson is literally on fucking cloud nine, and the fucking world he's on all over the fucking place. Everything if he knocks out Jake Paul. But let's pay him to lose a decision in one of the most boring fights that we've ever seen. That was only excited because of the aura of Mike Tyson. Jake Paul's never really entertaining, and the aura of Mike Tyson. I just think it's funny that you guys think the fight was fixed just because you guys are hating. That's literally almost like Trump derangement syndrome. That's Jake Paul derangement syndrome. You're just not going any which way against it, saying, no, it had to be Jake Paul won. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson's 58, but he should have beat Jake Paul. No. Jake Paul beat Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson is fucking old, did not train. There were no pulled punches. They timed each other and didn't want to get knocked out. They both felt the power of the other one and said, all right, this is enough that I might get fucked up. And even that, the fight went down as a pro fight on both of their records. If it was rigged and they both get caught, they're both fucking done. Not that Mike cares, but Jake's whole career is then done. He's not allowed to box no more. He'll be suspended for at least a year or two. I didn't say you said Mike should have won. That was just everyone's thinking, is if Mike didn't win, it had to be rigged. If Jake Paul wins, it's rigged. That's like the number one comment that I saw about this fight. If Jake Paul wins, it's rigged. No. If Jake Paul wins, he beat 58-year-old Mike Tyson. If he was rigging the fight, he would have knocked Mike Tyson out. There's no way he's going to go, let's rig it and let's go to a boring decision. Let's get near each other. Let's land a couple of punches to the face and temple, but let's pull some punches. I don't even know what you mean by that. I'm part of the all you speak. Again, just don't think it was rigged. They wouldn't have punched each other in the face as hard as they were punching each other in the face. Mike's just 58. Looked like a 58-year-old. He was tired very quick. And, Jake trains. Jake's a young kid who trains. He's a big kid, big boy. He came in at 230. And technically, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Mike probably beats him. But 58-year-old Mike, common signs of rigging a fight are a stoppage. A guy gets hit with a punch and takes a knee. A guy gets hit with a punch, stays down for the 10 count. If it was rigged and they were like, we're going to a decision, Jake wouldn't have been landing punches on Mike's temple. Jake wouldn't have been fucking swinging like he was trying to knock someone out. He would have been pulling punches. Mike wouldn't have landed that left hook. Tyson gave Jones more of a fight in a rigged exhibition. I mean, if you watch that fight, you could tell that fight was rigged, or they weren't trying to hurt each other. I think Jake Paul and Tyson, what you saw, they were trying to hurt each other. Didn't look good for either guy. And then yeah, the moments where if you thought it was them pulling punches, it was they timed each other. Oh, I agree with you there. Definitely stop giving Jake Paul a bigger platform. But this guy has infiltrated combat sports, so we have to talk about Jake Paul. He became a topic. Do you guys, all right, we could switch it up. Do you guys think Stipe has a chance tomorrow, or is Stipe's career over? I saw John Jones is a minus 700 favorite, which is fucking crazy. Granted, he's John Jones, but to put Stipe at fucking minus or plus 500 is wild. But Stipe's 42, so that's old. You know, Randy Couture was the only outlier, and Randy Couture was on the best testosterone and best gear that was available at the time. By washed up, are you saying Jones is washed up? I don't think Jones is washed up. I think he still has a little bit left in him, but he's old too, 37. Plus, he's had a hard life of partying and all those stories of him not really training. And then, so one of the craziest things too about Jones that people always say is like, even if you pick a heavyweight against him, like, oh, Aspinall will beat him or Stipe's going to beat him. There was a time when maybe like 6 out of the top 10 in the world at heavyweight trained at Jackson Wink. John used to train with all of them. John used to fuck up everybody. There's, I think, there you could find them online. There's definitely people have talked about it that were in the room. Frank Mears talked about it. Brendan Schaub's talked about it. Arlovsky's talked about it. And now, granted, you could also say a lot of these people are old and look what happened to them. But at the time, they were the top guys in the world, some of the top guys in the UFC. They used to train with John Jones and get fucking mauled. And it would be John, like, off of a bender, finally showing up to the gym while they were all in fight shape, getting ready for fights, and John would fuck up everybody. The only time or person I've ever heard who gave John trouble in training was a 185-pounder who caught him with a spinning back kick. I forget the dude's name, but caught John with a body shot and dropped John with a body shot. It's the only time any stories of John getting dropped in training, hurt in training, anything. It's funny, I heard leading up to this fight, Mike Tyson was talking about legacy, and he was like, what the fuck is that? I hate that word that people talk about legacy. But then I heard Jones say that like 12 times this week. How he wants to fight Stipe for his legacy, how he wants to fight Pereira for his legacy. No, he landed 67 punches because it was an exhibition. They were hitting each other. They were told to hit each other. Him landing 18 punches proves that it wasn't rigged. Or you're saying it was rigged in Jake Paul's favor for Jake to win a boring decision. How does that do anything for Jake? All Jake did was lose tonight. He might have won a decision, but that was a total loss for Jake Paul tonight. You beat up a 58-year-old. You couldn't knock out a 58-year-old. You let a 58-year-old go 8 rounds with you? Like, what the fuck? He lose. That's a loss, 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 loss for Jake. He gets a decision in the record books, gets Mike Tyson on his name, puts himself on Tyson's record. If he was paying off Mike Tyson, he would have knocked Mike Tyson out. After watching Volkanovski versus Makachev, I think that he's beatable. Ilya's really good, so I could see that. Plus, that fight would be huge internationally because Ilya represents Georgia, Sweden, and Makachev is from Russia, and they're both big stars. I feel like in America, they both draws in America. I think that fight's like a soccer stadium fight. Definitely a huge fight, but I could see Ilya beating Makachev simply because, and we don't even see it that much. I think Ilya's grappling's really good. I heard someone say that Ilya was a grappler first, that like, or even his grappling might be better than his striking. His striking's really good. And then Makachev, granted, I think it was just like a styles make fights thing with Volkanovski. Volkanovski's short, and I don't know if any of you ever wrestled, but short people are very hard to take down. They have a very good center of gravity. The first Volk Islam. If you're a Volk fan, don't even watch the second one. It's heartbreaking. They gave Volk no notice. He fought him on like 2 weeks' notice, I think, or a week, I think 2 weeks' notice. And he just came in soft and got fucking head kicked. Good luck being willfully naive. I just hope you're sober enough to catch the truth when it confronts you. What truth is going to confront me? That this fight was fixed? I don't think it was fixed. If it was rigged, it would have been a knockout. It wouldn't have been a boring decision. Jake wins nothing by rigging this fight to win a boring decision. And if it was rigged so Jake Paul could win, right? Jake wins nothing by winning a boring decision. It's you beat up a 58-year-old Jake. If he knocked Mike out, it would have been, bro, you fucking slept Mike Tyson. Granted, he was 58, but instead it's, bro, you were hitting him. You couldn't knock out Mike Tyson? We'll see, though. I don't think either one's going to come out saying it was rigged. Mike Tyson didn't have a look on his face like he was in a rigged fight. He just looked very disappointed, like he thought he was going to put on a better performance. Yes, we've been over this. Made 40 million and 20 million. They definitely won in that sense. But again, Jake loses beating Mike Tyson by a lackluster decision. Jake loses by not throwing punches early and like just didn't look. Jake did not look good beating Mike Tyson. So what does Jake Paul win there by paying $50 million, $20 million, whatever the number is, to Mike Tyson to rig a decision? Just don't hit me, Mike. No, Mike was 58 years old. He could not hit him because he was not using what he could have to hit him. Had no reach, had no speed. Only way he was landing on Jake Paul was if he punched when Jake Paul punched. The 2 or 3 times he did it were the 2 or 3 punches he landed in the fight. Everything else was glancing. Jake hit Mike with some punches. Mike is just old, tough. He's like old leather. Illusion. I have a good friend who's actually a really good magician, but I don't believe illusion. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight disaster. Paul destroyed for fixing fake fight. Netflix was terrible. Again, if he fixed it, if he paid 20 million, 30 million, 40 million extra to Tyson to fix it, it wouldn't have been a decision. I didn't buy into anything. I watched the fight where I saw a 58-year-old boxer and Jake Paul punch each other and not be able to knock each other out. And both be weary of each other's power. Ilya's boxing is crazy. And the thing with Ilya's got good defense. But yeah, Ilya's got some hands. Maybe if he does have a weakness, it's kicks. That's the only thing we've ever seen hurt him. And I don't think he throws that many kicks. Holloway's a good boxer, but I don't think he was the best boxer. because he's not a real legit boxer. I mean, he's not fighting real legit boxers, but to be an 11-0 pro, 11-1 pro boxer, you can box. And again, he fought some good MMA fighters that should have at least been decent in boxing, and he beat them. I think him not knocking Mike out shows how good or how durable Mike actually was. And yes, Jake's not that level of the people who did rock or knock Mike out. And yes, 50, 58 years old. Neither fighter was holding back. Both were swinging to knock the other one out. Mike just couldn't land, and Jake just didn't land that punch. Jake landed some solid punches on Mike Tyson. Go on social media now. I'm sure there's highlights and views of him. He landed some solid punches on Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is just durable. An old work boot. Yeah. Was just a show. Was a boxing match between a 28-year-old YouTuber turned boxer who has no amateur boxing experience versus a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. And so, even like Roy Jones stayed boxing late, took some exhibitions and some bullshit fights into his older years. Mike didn't box for I don't even know how many years. And then he did the exhibition with Roy Jones. But he didn't box for so long in that time span. We saw him chubby. We saw him doing drugs. So that's a lot of beat on your body. I mean, I could see what you're saying there, JP. If it's not a real fight in that aspect, it was absolutely was a Hollywood show. It wasn't like we saw. Granted, it's Mike Tyson, but it's not the Mike from 30 years ago. We saw two boxers fight tonight. Mike's not a boxer anymore. He is a retired boxer. Now he's a fucking I was gonna say movie star, but he's hardly that. He's just a celebrity. I think a lot of people are accusing that fight of being rigged. Again, that was the number one comment I've seen. I respect your viewpoint as well. Again, I just think that that's what it is. It's you can't fathom Jake Paul winning a legitimate fight. What changed my mind on Jake Paul was seeing him in person, talking to some of his trainers, talking to some of his training partners, and then him beating Anderson Silva and Nate Diaz. Woodley, I was like, all right, Woodley's small. Woodley's not the biggest fighter. You know, he's a welterweight. I don't know if Jake can make 170. And then, but seeing him bust up or beat up Anderson and then bust up and fucking, he did dog walk Nate Diaz. Not saying Nate Diaz is the most technical fighter, but Nate Diaz is known for his cardio, his durability. And then again, the reason Jake looks like shit, if you will, or doesn't look like old Canelo or these other boxers, he doesn't have an amateur background. He doesn't have a lot of fights, doesn't have a lot of experience. He has a lot of training, and he's building experience at the pro level, so he's under a harsher microscope. Yes, there was no way Jake could win that fight. The only way that he won this fight was if he knocked Mike Tyson out. If the fight was a competitive war, Jake Paul loses. And not loses this. If Jake Paul wins the decision, but it was a competitive war, he still loses. If Jake Paul wins the decision in a boring fight, he loses. Every which way. The only way that that fight was a win for Jake Paul was if he knocked Mike Tyson out. And even that, the Texas Athletic Commission, Do you know anything about the Texas State Athletic Commission? They're fucking douchers and sticklers for the rules. They had to change some of the rules. They didn't want to make this a pro fight. If it was rigged or any inclination of it being rigged, they would have said it's an exhibition. It's not allowed to be a pro fight. Texas is a very harsh commission. Very by the book, very harsh. They don't fucking let bullshit go on in Texas. If they wanted to rig the fight or the fight was rigged, they would have held it in a different state. Texas is a real doucher athletic commission. That's actually why a lot of people thought the fight wouldn't even happen, because they didn't think that Mike would be able to pass the physicals. Because usually, I know in New York, they make you go, if you're over the age of, I think, 40, they make you take brain scans and all this type of shit. So people thought that he was going to have to do that in Texas. And then Texas said, we're only going to make him pass 2 tests. And it'll be a pro fight. Again, the Athletic State Commission in Texas would have just been, it's not a pro fight. We're not making it a pro fight. I think he trained for Jake Paul. I think same as all the other MMA fighters. I think he underestimated Jake Paul, and then Jake caught him. Like that left hook that he hit Diaz with didn't look like much, but the reason it didn't look like much is because it was a thud that connected right on Nate's temple. Nate went to step and was like, "Oh shit, I'm off balance," and fucking almost face planted. And then him in shape for Masvidal. I think Masvidal hit that point. Masvidal's done. He's gun shy. He doesn't throw the punches he needs to punch. He just lost that eye of the tiger or will to scrap. Like even Masvidal talking about coming back to MMA, I think that doesn't go well for him. One or two fights and he's done. He's not going to win, especially if he fights anyone even remotely competitive. I think he gets fucked up. I think also that showed us Nate wasn't the boxer we thought he was, that he lost to Jake Paul. A part of Nate's effectiveness in MMA was that he has the threat of maybe clinching with you, dirty boxing, gassing you out, taking what you can give him, and then being there still when you start getting tired and catching you with something. That didn't happen in the Jake Paul fight. Jake put it on him from the jump, and Jake had cardio. Jake surprised the fuck out of me in that fight. That was the only way Jake could win that fight, was by knocking Mike Tyson out. There's no realm where people are like, yo, I got respect for Jake now. You saw what he did to Tyson? Everyone who watched that fight was like, what the fuck am I watching? This dude looks so old out here. Like my first take after I watched the first round and realized Tyson's not going to turn back the clock, is that old, was Jake, you're a dickhead. Like this fight should have not been allowed to happen. I don't think Masvidal got robbed. I think competitive fight. I forget what rounds, but Jorge definitely won some rounds. But then I remember he like took the fucking second half of the fight off. The greatest thing I saw was the slap that Tyson slapped Jake Paul, and then the aftermath of it was like, what happened? He stepped on my foot. And then when you rewatch it, you're like, oh shit, he stepped on his foot. So like that wasn't happening. Mike wasn't slapping him unless Jake Paul stepped on his foot. Oh, for sure. The Barrios fight was really good too, but Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano was actually a really good fight. But Katie Taylor definitely was on her Evander Holyfield shit, just fucking leading with her head. Like all the cuts in that fight were caused by headbutts. Both of them were caused by Katie Taylor's headbutts. Katie Taylor headbutted her and cut herself, and Katie Taylor headbutted Amanda and cut Amanda. Amanda's cut was kind of nasty. Like her shit was deep. One of those ones that's probably gonna always reopen. I don't think Jake Paul ever fights MMA. I would like to see Jake Paul fight MMA, but I don't think he, just because he fucking picked off so many MMA fighters in boxing, I don't think he ever fights MMA though. I think that he's trained MMA, and I don't think it goes well for him when he trains. And there's a video, granted, it was way before he started training. Like the time for him to get decent at jiu-jitsu or grappling, it would just be too much. That's why you don't see any boxers. Not to saying that Jake's the boxer, but he's a boxer now. But that's why you don't see any boxers try to cross over to MMA. Because if they didn't come from a wrestling background or have any jiu-jitsu years ago, they're not gonna. Terrence Crawford would be the only one that I think could cross over. Like Ryan Garcia talks about it. Ryan Garcia, like he could fight Sean O'Malley tomorrow. Sean O'Malley's double legging him and fucking looking like a world beater on the ground against him. Like you can close, and even in boxing you see it. You can close the gap a little more in boxing. You can't close the gap in jiu-jitsu. Like you can get lucky and knock someone out. You're not getting lucky and armbarring someone. Yes, I did not see Katie as the winner. I had that at least at worst 6-4 Serrano, and then Katie got a point deducted. So I don't know how Serrano didn't win that fight. Watching it, I think that the cut, people were thinking that the cut was caused from a punch, and also that the blood on her face was like, oh, she's getting fucked up a little bit. It's like, it's just the blood from the headbutt getting smeared all over her face. That happens a lot in fighting when you get two aggressive fighters. If one of them's not going to take a step back, they're going to headbutt when they punch. And I think the first round or the second round, Serrano rocked Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor started coming forward from that point on. I think they should run that fight back. Even though Katie Taylor beat her twice. Yes, Barrios Ramos was a great fight too. The craziest thing to me was, and that Barrios, part of the promotion, whatever, but the uh, the weigh-ins when Jake, or the what's it called, the press conference when Jake Paul was making bets with all the fighters, and he said to Barrios, like, you want to bet? And Barrios didn't want to bet, and he was like, bitch made. That's what I thought. Barrios just took that. I would have thought for sure, like, fucking, he would have at least been like, fuck you. But man, I wonder if Jake Paul now is gonna live up to that and fucking tell all those people that they owe him money now. Like, you picked Mike Tyson, I want my fucking money. Great build up to the fight. Again, if you think it was rigged, you think it was rigged. I can't, you know, we see it from different eyes, so I can't make up, what's going on in your head. But I don't think a rigged fight would have looked like that. But great build up, great entertainment. They got us all tuned in. We all tuned in thinking, oh shit, it's Iron Mike. We're seeing these videos. It's Iron Mike. Like, he's going to be. He had a minute and 30 seconds. And Jake just danced for that minute and 30 seconds. Like, on all the scorecards, Mike won the first round just off of doing anything, while Jake did nothing. Yeah, that cut was nasty. Amanda Serrano's cut was disgusting. No clinches in the girls' fight, right? Yes. That fight was very entertaining. They were both fighting in the pocket, both throwing, both standing their ground. That's why, they're gonna say Katie Taylor's a dirty fighter. That's why there were so many headbutts. They were both standing their ground. That's one of the craziest things. Like, even Devin Haney, like, we can't accept Devin Haney back into combat sports. We can't just let that slide. That Devin Haney got fucked up and then was like, nah, I'm gonna sue you. I want the loss taken off my record, like all that shit. That was some bitch shit by Devin Haney. And even the PEDs were at he tested positive for, I forget what he tested positive for, but it wasn't at levels where it would affect performance. And he had the drug test before was negative, the drug test after were negative. So it had to be like something he ate or a one and done type of thing. Or maybe he's doping and doing stuff to beat the test, but he doesn't look like he was on steroids. You know, he came into that fight kind of soft, and you were like, oh, Ryan Garcia. And then I think just styles make fights. Like, even that fight, Garcia was a huge underdog. Like, nobody thought he was going to win that fight. I did. I bet on Garcia, but that's just because he had good odds in that fight. But yeah, terrible. Devin Haney, his dad's a fucking idiot. That they overturned that loss and got him suspended, all that shit. Bullshit. And I think even they're still suing him. Would you want to see Serrano versus Katie Taylor again? And even Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Would you want to see them again? Because Haney says he wants it. Garcia's like, I guess I'll take it. I actually did hear that Ryan Garcia, because he's suspended, is going to go fight in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or something and say, like, fuck the United States right now. And so now, if he does that, if Garcia does go fight in Abu Dhabi, it's hit or miss when he tries to come back to the States. They might be like, you didn't honor our suspension and you're fucking suspended for life, or you're suspended for 5 years, or they might look at it and be like, oh, you shouldn't have been suspended. A lot of the times, athletic commissions don't like when you break the rules, and they're fucking dickheads about it. Especially if you're kind of a dickhead to them, which I think they look at Garcia as one. And I know he's suspended in New York. New York, similar to Texas, fucking terrible athletic commission. Oh, huge money. I think even, I don't know, we'll see how many people tuned into this Jake Paul, Mike Tyson card, but they could run back now that they built this platform. They could put that fight right on Netflix as the headliner. Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. That fight was awesome. Definitely one of, if not the best women's fights. Man, don't you wish that fight would have happened though? Andrew Tate versus Jake Paul in like the height of Andrew Tate. I mean, you want to lean towards Andrew Tate just because we all want to see Jake Paul lose, but I think Jake Paul might, you know, be the better boxer in that. Andrew Tate's a kickboxer, a legit kickboxer, but his boxing, he might have some holes. I think Jake would catch him with an overhand right or just keep jabbing him. I'd watch that fight, but they definitely wouldn't put that fight on Netflix. I think Jake's next few fights are going to be on Netflix. But that's even yes, Haney has to run it back with Garcia and fuck him up. If Haney runs it back with Garcia and gets fucked up again, then it's like, dude, why'd you pull that bitch shit last time? Like, why'd you do all that shit? And even then, again, I think that the test levels, when they tested it or they showed the levels, he wasn't at levels that would change anything. So, I'm gonna defend John Jones on steroids, but I think that's the same thing that happened with John Jones. That's where the picograms came from. John Jones wasn't on enough juice or significant amounts of juice that would have gave him any type of athletic edge. John Jones's levels showed that it was an accidental ingestion, which is what they ruled Ryan Garcia's as, because he had, and John Jones too, had negative drug tests before and negative drug tests after. The only one that I remember hearing about where it was like, oh, he's on steroids and he's on steroids in the recent was Brock Lesnar, where Brock Lesnar had a dirty test and then another dirty test, and then I think even another dirty test, and they still let him fight. John Jones was one dirty test in between a couple of clean tests, and then Ryan Garcia was a dirty test in between a couple of clean tests. If they're on something and they're doping or trying to trick the drug test, there's ways around that, because whenever they come up with a drug test, there's a whole system devised on how to beat the drug test. So if that's the level they're doping, which I'm sure a lot of them are at the highest level, but both of them have a little bit of plausible deniability. MMA is the greatest sport on earth. Like one of the greatest things for me. So I actually was a little kid. I remember seeing UFC 1 and being like hooked on it. And then I was like, oh, Ken Shamrock, this guy's going to kill fucking Gracie. And then when he got choked out, I was just enamored by MMA. I remember watching all of them. Then they got taken off TV. Always into boxing, but just MMA was always it. Greatest sport on earth. Like I can't watch soccer, basketball. I can bet on basketball, baseball, things like that. I can't watch it. I could watch fighting all day. I see what you mean. Lack of good character. I've met John Jones. He's actually a really nice guy. And then yeah, you hear horror stories, but then I've also heard a lot of really good stories. But then yeah, hit a pregnant lady. Seems like a dick, you know. But then when he seems like a dick, it's in like combat sports moments where it's like, oh, we're about to fight. I fucking get it. Man, I fucking, I do like pro wrestling, but I thought Brock was fucking great. Not great in the fighter, not great, great entertainment. Like he looks like a freak. The fact that he was coming from pro wrestling, you're like, oh, this guy's gonna get fucking killed. And then when he actually could win fights with a limited skill set, just being a fucking beast, having good wrestling, but no jujitsu, no kickboxing. His kicks were terrible. He didn't have good defense. He had a good right hand, but like he was winning fights against the best in the world. Knocked out Randy Couture. I was entertained by Brock. And then like someone spoke about earlier, a lot of boxers or wrestlers or MMA fighters have gone into pro wrestling. The fact that Brock kind of went the other way was awesome. Like CM Punk, that was terrible to watch. It's like, oh, you don't have any skills. You're training, sure, you're a blue belt. Like Brock's level of wrestling, Brock was a blue belt on day one. He learned a little bit of jiu-jitsu. He could go with black belts because his wrestling was so high level. And then you see how well wrestling in general with other wrestlers translates into MMA. You can look at like Bo Nickel right now. Like Bo Nickel, because his wrestling's so fucking good, he's a purple belt the first day. Then it's like you show him a couple of ways to move and not get put in positions, don't let people get angry. And then it's like, oh, you could roll with black belts, you could roll with brown belts because your wrestling's so high level. If Jones seems more humble, it's the same as Khamzat Chimaev. And I'm sure you guys know, especially if you guys are older, I don't know who's young, who's old, life humbles you. So, Jones has had some shit. He's been through some shit. I know at one point when Jones was out, I remember he started tweeting. Granted, there's stories of him hitting his wife and shit, but which is terrible. But I remember he was tweeting like, my wife left me, my kids are gone, shit like that. So life humbles you. I know Kamzat, his kid got sick. Life will humble you quick. But still, nobody's humbled John in a fight. Closest was Dominic Reyes. Maybe Gustafsson, but that one was, both of those fights were 3-2 either way. But yeah, John's definitely humble, but then he came out with that crazy shit with Stipe, where he said he apparently has receipts too that Stipe talked shit about his kids, or said like my kids won't think I'm an asshole, some shit. Definitely intrigued by that fight. It's gonna be, can Stipe pull off the impossible? People can change. People do change. Everyone. Nobody stays the same. Who we are now is going to be different than who we are in 5 years, 10 years. Very rarely do they stay the same. And then fighting is such a crazy range of emotions that I think, yeah, fighters definitely age quickly and change a lot. I was hoping for the best with CM Punk because, again, him too. Very nice guy. I have mutual friends with him, and then any times I've had interactions where I've been around him at some events and shit. Very nice guy. Can't say anything bad about him, but yeah, his fighting. The fact that he lost to the guy Mike Jackson, that guy Mike Jackson, aside from CM Punk, Mike Jackson is the second worst fighter ever in the UFC. CM Punk is the worst fighter in the modern UFC. There's probably guys at UFC 1 or 2 that they could have beat. GSP could beat anybody, and GSP had way better striking than Khabib. But yeah, GSP was good. Matt Serra was actually from, had a very successful gym from where I'm from in Long Island. But that was one of the luckiest fights, biggest upsets ever. Could Matt knock out anybody? Sure, but he shouldn't have knocked out GSP. He did, which was fucking crazy. But I think you take that fight, and then the Matt Hughes fight, even like Matt caught GSP when he was still young. GSP avenged all his losses. GSP was really good, and GSP, one of the smartest fighters I think I've ever seen, or that I'm sure you guys have ever seen. Very intellectual, like with his game planning and just strategy for fights. You could tell he definitely studied his opponents, definitely fought to the game plan. There was no fights where you're like, GSP, what happened? Oh, I strayed from the game plan. Like Matt Serra just caught him. Even the submission that Matt Hughes got on him was just, you caught him. I think Kurt Angle would have actually been a great MMA fighter. And I've heard stories of Kurt Angle talking about a few times where he almost got into it. He was almost on the season of The Ultimate Fighter with Kimbo, which would have been fucking amazing, but he couldn't pass the physical. And then even the first time he tried to get in, there wasn't enough money in it. But I think Kurt Angle was a high level wrestler, and then the the group he came from actually produced a couple of good fighters. What's his name? Mark Schultz would actually be one of them. Mark Schultz was only fought once, but came into the UFC and was able to just use wrestling to fucking win fights or win a fight. But there was a couple of them from Kurt Angle's like group, like in Foxcatcher and the Clarion and the Pennsylvania Wrestling Academy, whatever. I forget the name of it that he was in. But there was a lot of good people around Kurt Angle, like Rulon Gardner, um, a lot of people. Can't think of them now. But even that, like Angle used to compete against Mark Coleman, Randy Couture. All those guys were around the same weight, same time as Kurt Angle. Kurt might have been a little younger, but Kurt competed against that level of wrestler. Would have definitely transitioned into MMA well. What's Reyes was rigged? Is that Reyes versus Jones? Yes, precisely, Jonathan. Life humbles you quick. It can happen at any time. 20s, teens, 30s, 40s. Like think of a kid who has a rough upbringing. Life humbles them pretty quick, and they learn about work ethic and how to not fall down that trap. And then people in their 30s where it's like my life's not turning out what I thought it would be. People in their 40s where it's like I'm not hitting these goals in life and I'm not where I want to be. People, same thing, 30s and 40s, health issues, 50s, health issues. Yeah, life humbles you real quick. And then think, at any point, I don't have kids, but I know it to be true from hearing it and just seeing it. If you have kids, life will humble you very quick. Things could change like that, and your whole outlook on life is different. Yes. If you do anything full contact, back to even Mike Tyson, the fact that Mike Tyson had 15 years of not doing anything. And he said on Joe Rogan he didn't want to reignite his ego and bring back that person. Like, you could take years off. Like, I trained most of my life. I took off like 7 years from a leg break, and then, what are we in? Yeah, so about 7 years, 6 years. In that 7 years, I was still around the sport, maybe trained sporadically, but never went back to what I used to do. And yeah, you can get it back, but it's tough. Definitely, if you tried to do it at that same high level or full contact and without any type of training, you're gonna get fucked up and pay the consequences. Absolutely. We saw that with Mike. Like you saw how they even they're very selective about the footage that was put out. There were no whole rounds. And usually fighters don't do that, but even here with Mike, you thought maybe you'd see like larger portions of his sparring or of his training, but you didn't. You saw little clips what they wanted to give you. Uh Bivol, have you seen the shit with Bivol and his wife? His wife, I don't know if his wife's accusing him of cheating or just being a shit father by being obsessed with his career, giving his wife and his kids millions of dollars. But I've seen Bivol have a little bit of shade thrown on him by his wife. I think his wife left him. But both great fighters. I don't know much about Beterbiev or Beterbiev or how do you pronounce it, but he is a great fighter. I saw him. I saw that fight. Very close. Could have went either way, but they definitely should run it back. I think Bivol is the guy. You know, once you beat Canelo, you're the guy. He beat Canelo, so he became the guy a little bit. Definitely a bigger one of the bigger draws in boxing. I forget where Bivol's from, but has a country behind him. Usually, when a guy is from like a country other than America, the country gets behind him in boxing. Sometimes in MMA, but always in boxing. But yeah, I'm sure Bivol, even the way we say life changes you and life humbles you, he's probably going through some of that too. Like throwing it back to Jones. I remember seeing that, like Jones, and he took the post down. But there was a point where even at like 2 in the morning or something, John Jones was posting how his wife left him. He said like something like, "I hope you guys are all happy now. Everybody praying on my downfall because my wife just left me." But yeah, that's actually something that sure it happens to women too, women fighters or women in combat sports. But I've seen women bring down men a lot, and a woman will fuck with your head to where it's like, I don't want to go to the gym today. I'm falling off a little bit. I don't know too many soccer fans. I heard kids are big into soccer now, but I don't know about that. I just know Ronaldo and Messi. I don't know much about soccer other than that. But yeah, I'm gonna hopefully do this, get on, talk shit with people. It's something I enjoy, just bickering back and forth with fans, and I love hearing people's takes on shit as well as giving my take on shit. But tomorrow, who's watching UFC? What is it, 309? And do we think if Michael Chandler loses tomorrow, Michael Chandler is done, right? Like you can't sit out for 2 years waiting for Connor and then get fucked up by Oliveira the second time. And what does he do after that? Soccer fans I've seen very passionate. Uh, Best martial art for the street might be boxing, but probably wrestling because you can still throw punches and you're able to like control where the fight happens. Jiu-jitsu is also great in that you have more ways to finish the fight. Awareness is key, but it depends. When you say head stomped, if you're in a brawl, you want to be a boxer, kickboxer, be on your feet and angles. It depends. If you're in a head up fight, or I guess you're saying best martial arts for the street, I honestly would probably lean jiu-jitsu because you can learn how to punch, you can throw some type of punch, and then when you ask a question like that, what happened in UFC 1? What happened in UFC 2? What happened in UFC 3? 4, 5? Like jiu-jitsu didn't lose number 1 until wrestlers learned how to defend jiu-jitsu. And then you saw wrestling was number 1. Now it's you have to know jiu-jitsu, you have to know wrestling. So and you have to know how to strike now because the sports evolved, but I look if what's best in the street is you got to look back at the original UFCs. And what reigned supreme was jiu-jitsu. But, you know, if it's a brawl, yeah, you don't want to hit the ground. You want to be Chuck Liddell in a brawl. and just firing fastballs, not letting anyone get behind you or on the side of you. Because that's the biggest thing in a brawl or in a street fight is getting blindsided. Something that you don't see, or getting fucking soccer kicked if you wind up on top of somebody. Mainly blindsided. Because that's what, I'm sure you've seen it, a lot of brawls on the internet, or if you've ever been in a fight and seen it happen, that fucking blindsided sucker punch gets you good. Jiu-jitsu's like situational awareness is a big part of jiu-jitsu. And there's a lot of things you could do standing, as well as if you have takedowns. But yes, like you just no takedowns, but there's some takedowns in wrestling. Like even that's part of it too. They put Hoist Gracie in the earlier UFCs because it would have looked better for jiu-jitsu, and it would have sold more VHS tapes or jiu-jitsu memberships like they were trying to do. They could have put Hickson in there, who had a good blast double, who looked physically strong. None of them had very good striking, but Hickson had better wrestling, where it would have looked like, oh shit, jiu-jitsu, like this guy's fucking ripping people to the floor. They had Hoist, who did not have very good takedowns, who had like that jumping front kick. But yeah, jiu-jitsu is probably what I would recommend. Wrestling only became the dominant martial art when it was like, I know how to defend jiu-jitsu. But also, like we were talking about with Brock, how high level of the jiu-jitsu are you going to encounter? Because if you're a high level wrestler, on day one, you're a blue belt, you're a purple belt. The white belts aren't going to catch you. They might catch you once in a while, but they're not going to fuck you up. You're going to wind up dominating the lower belts if you know how to wrestle. I had, layman's terms, if you will. So if we're going to throw it back to UFC 1 to kind of decipher how martial arts is and which one's the best one, you can also throw it into like a real life situation where this fight's happening. So I had friends that went to prison, and what they told me was kind of like Muay Thai was the most effective. They were like, nobody can deal with knees. Like the average guy is not ready to get kneed in the fucking head. He's not ready for a Thai clinch, and guillotines. So kind of like, I'd almost say like fucking Krav Maga or something, like basic jiu-jitsu with some knees, maybe some kicks, like the little. So the best martial art would be something that kind of incorporates all those. Like I know fucking Jeet Kune Do tried to incorporate all that. If you're doing jiu-jitsu for MMA, it kind of incorporates all that. Like if you were in a Gracie gym in the 90s, you probably would have been doing like underground fights and shit and working on some type of striking. But yeah, jiu-jitsu showed UFC 1 through like 6 that it was the top. Jiu-jitsu is just a ground game primarily, but everyone knows how to punch. That's the first form of martial art that there ever was boxing. A caveman punched another caveman. For all we know, Adam punched Eve. Or vice versa. But, cavemen were punching each other over sticks and rocks and before they were ever doing anything. And then once they got past the punch, they started wrestling. So I think that that's the oldest form of fighting, was punching someone. So even if you're learning jiu-jitsu, you can still punch. It depends. If you have good high kicks, like you ever see that one video that's on the internet of the drunk frat bro who tries to fight the like chubby dude, but the chubby dude knows Muay Thai, and the chubby dude's in like board shorts, and they square up, and the one dude's sitting there like with his hands like this, and the chubby dude just flings a high kick and fucking smacks the dude right in the temple. Muay Thai low kick is lethal on the street. A calf kick is one of the most lethal things ever. So depends on who you're asking. But I remember Justin Gaethje one time saying that he never kicks above the knee anymore. Once you learn the calf kick, everything's a calf kick. Everything's below the knee. So if you're talking about that low kick, that's the most effective low kick in my opinion, is a calf kick, because if you can turn off the perennial nerve and then your foot stops working. But yeah, throwing it back to that, I had friends who were in the streets, if you will, but were in prison, And that's what they all had training beforehand. They were all actually high level jiu-jitsu guys with MMA training, but they said, like, I'm not using jiu-jitsu in here. If I get in a fight, I'm using a Thai clinch. I'm throwing punches, but I'm using a Thai clinch, a guillotine, and I'm throwing knees. So that's what's the most effective. So even that, if you want to take a couple of moves that are the most effective to use against the average Joe, a guillotine, a Thai clinch, knees, straight right hand. Most people are right-handed. If you're a southpaw, that's actually even better because then just a straight left hand, and you're a little bit awkward and unorthodox to anybody you're gonna fight. But yeah, you can always revert back to UFC 1. And what is the best martial arts to training? Any martial art. That's the other thing we saw at UFC 1 is you could train a lot of different shit and it could possibly be effective. Well, the oldest form of martial arts in America was probably boxing. And everywhere in the world, I have to think it was boxing or some type of punch, palm, hand to hand combat. A shank always works very well. Or any type of weapon for that matter. But the problem with a shank or any type of weapon is if you don't land with it or you don't get it done, a kitchen knife, if you don't land with that kitchen knife and then my jiu-jitsu or my wrestling or my anything happens to work and get the kitchen knife away from you, I might be crazy and use the kitchen knife against you. Or just then use the martial arts. But yeah, definitely that too. Like I did some of that when I was younger, like some self-defense shit, and you learn how to disarm people with a gun, with a knife. A lot of it's just 2-on-1 type shit. But yes, weapon's always a good choice. I mean, the greatest choice would be a gun, the Second Amendment. And then just a little bit of shooting skill. I don't know if we'd call that a martial art, but I'd actually say that's the greatest martial art. Proper gun use. Knowing how to shoot a gun. But yes, I got a few more minutes. I'm approaching 3 hours on my watching Jake Paul versus Tyson on YouTube. But yeah, I'll probably do this again for UFC 309 because I live in the middle of nowhere now. I think any gun. If you have a gun, you start bucking shots, especially a handgun with a good clip. But yes, gun is definitely goated. But yes, we'll end it on now that it's the Jake Paul Mike Tyson video. I don't think the fight was rigged. I think we watched a 58-year-old versus a young kid who's taking boxing serious. I hope that they do come out and say it was rigged because you know, I don't want to fathom or put in my memory that Jake Paul did beat up 58-year-old Mike Tyson. I feel like shit about it. That I sat and watched the whole fight too. Within 10 minutes, or not even, the fight was 2-minute rounds. Within a minute and 30 seconds, I felt shame. Like, I can't believe I'm watching this. Like, there's people that are tone deaf or just deaf to combat sports that didn't watch it. And they were like, fuck. I can't believe I'm watching this. I hoped for the best. I hoped that old Iron Mike would show up, but old Mike showed up. And again, rigged. Mike loses a lot with that loss. He loses, like, he's just, granted, you're going to be like, oh, you're 58, but some phone calls aren't going to happen because of it, you know, like some opportunities, some financial opportunities. People are just, it's just, a lot changes when you lose a fight, even if you're 58. And even that's what's so pitiful about that fight, is that people can make claims that it was rigged. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. And that was the number one comment that I saw on any video, any post, anything, was that if Jake Paul wins, it's rigged. So I knew that was going to be the outcome. But there were moments in the fight where I could see what people are saying if they think the punches were being pulled, but I just saw it as they both were afraid of the consequences. They both were aware that they could probably hurt each other or knock each other out. Mike landed one or two good punches in the fight, landed a couple punches, but one or two that Jake definitely was like, oh shit, this is still Mike Tyson. And Jake landed some good punches. He caught Mike on a temple a few times. He caught Mike with one good one, like right to the fucking face. So I don't know if they'd throw those in a rigged fight. But I enjoyed talking with you guys. Awesome. Keep your standards high, brother. And Bob Hope, keep hope alive. I'll see you dudes again. Oof.